Chapter 98. Little Prince? Lin Muyu turned around and said with a smile, I know your elder brother, big brother Qin Lei. We both serve the Holy Temple, there will be plenty of chances to spar in the future. There's no rush right now, right? Qin Yan's handsome face revealed a hint of a smile, I know you're my brother's friend. Don't worry, I won't harm you in the slightest. I just want to verify just whose defense is the strongest in this Holy Temple. Strongest defense? Yes. Qin Yan's appearance was not the same as Qin Lei's. He was a little more handsome. Holding the long spear in his hand, with a low roar, a golden dragon-shaped energy enveloped his body, gradually condensing on the Holy Temple battle robes. He said with a smile, You've also seen it. As a member of the Qin family, although I did not comprehend the god-binding chains of the true dragon bloodline, I have comprehended the dragon scale armor of my mother's family. The dragon scale armor is a third-grade defensive type tool spirit, known as the world's #1 defensive martial spirit. This is also the reason why I'm looking for you to spar. Then how does little prince wish to spar? Lin Muyu asked with a smile. Qin Yan's face was still slightly immature. Scratching his head, he said with a smile, How about this? In the time it takes for an incense stick to burn, we'll mutually attack each other. Whoever can break the other's martial spirit first will be considered the winner. How about it? Lin Muyu thought about it and already had a plan in her heart, all right then. Qin Yan immediately raised his arm and said, Deacon Guiyang, please come over and be a witness for us. And that. Lord Zhang Wei, please come over and be a witness for the victory between me and big brother Lin Ji. Guiyang had a helpless look, little Prince Qin Yan, this doesn't conform to the Holy Temple's rules. We prohibit private fights. We're only going to determine victory and defeat, not life and death. Deacon Guiyang, don't worry. Zhang Wei cupped his fists and stood at the side, saying with a smile, Lord Lin Ji, you have to fight for the Holy Temple's sparring masters. At this time, quite a number of people came after hearing the news. In the blink of an eye, over 20 people gathered at the side, and Guiyang had already lit an incense stick, saying, regardless of victory or defeat, the battle must stop after the time it takes for an incense stick to burn. Yes. Lin Muyu and Qin Yan cupped their fists and saluted from a distance. In the next moment, Qin Yan suddenly shook the fire serpent spear in his hand. Immediately, dense flames covered the fire serpent spear. He was Qin Lei's younger brother. With regards to Qin Lei's strength, Lin Muyu was both respectful and fearful. This Qin Yan in front of him was presumably not much weaker than his older brother. Otherwise, he would not have come to challenge her. Clang! Unsheathing the prairie flame sword, Zhang Xian exhaled his dou qi and flames immediately gushed out from the sword. Without holding back, he charged forward and executed the triple slash of the wind-riding sword art. Bang, 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 dragon roars rose in a rhythmic manner, the dragon scale armor around Qin Yan's body reacted. The prairie flame sword's 3 successive strikes were indeed unable to injure the dragon scale armor in the slightest. Instead, it shook Lin Muyu's arm to the point of numbness. Furthermore, every strike felt as if it was striking a 10,000-year-old boulder. This dragon scale armor was known as the world's #1 defensive martial soul, it indeed deserved its reputation. No worries, I can still do it. No need to hold back. Qin Yan laughed loudly. With a shake of the metal spear in his hand, the beast spirit with a fire serpent wrapped around it smashed onto the wall of Lin Muyu's gourd. Instantly, a tiny crack appeared on the outermost layer of the black tortoise armor. However, under the recovery effect, this tiny crack was rapidly repaired. Qin Yan was proficient in defensive combat techniques, and his offensive combat techniques could only be considered average. At the very least, he could not be compared to Zhao Jin's combat technique, which gave up on defense and focused on offense. Good gourd, interesting. Qin Yan's face flushed red. This brat was indeed a martial fanatic. With a clang, the heavy strike of the fire serpent spear sent Lin Muyu flying backwards. The long sword in her hand also flew out of her hand. Qin Yan quickly grabbed the opportunity, and with a thrust of his spear, he struck the hilt of the prairie flame sword, looking as if he wanted to send the prairie flame sword flying. However, right at this moment, bolts of lightning wreaked havoc in the air, tightly grabbing onto the prairie flame sword like an invisible hand. Furthermore, with a flash of lightning, the prairie flame sword rumbled over with dazzling lightning. Ah! Qin Yan did not know that Lin Muyu had grasped the four-elemental imperial sword. He hurriedly took a step back, his feet piercing into the stone floor like iron pillars. The dragon scale armor shone with a resplendent light, and the two defensive abilities of rock wall plus shield were added onto the dragon scale armor at the same time. With a bang, the prairie flame sword was sent flying, and a tiny crack appeared on the dragon scale armor. Lord Lin Ji, good job. Qin Xiling and the other sparring masters clapped their hands in delight. Qin Yan was also stunned. Then, shame and indignation climbed onto his face. With a shake of his arm, the chain of attacks of the fire serpent spear came in a threatening manner. Lin Muyu controlled the prairie flame sword to block through the air. Ding ding ding, sparks flew. This set of attacks was completely blocked by Lin Muyu with the wall of the gourd. Qin Yan's attacks were too swift and fierce. If she did not block, it would be very easy to be injured. Furthermore, Qin Yan was Qin Lei's younger brother, and was also considered one of them. Unless it was absolutely necessary, she could not injure him. In the blink of an eye, an incense stick of time was almost finished. Lin Muyu's mystic tortoise shell was already riddled with holes, and a large portion of the dragon scale wall was also damaged. However, the Forbidden Mother Tree's recovery ability was currently constantly transforming battle chi into the mystic tortoise shell and the dragon scale wall's defensive energy layer. Qin Yan's attacks had limited penetrative power, so he was naturally unable to defeat Lin Muyu. On the other hand, Lin Muyu only used Lightning Strike, Thunderous Frenzy, Imperial Wind Sword Art, and other sword arts to counterattack. She did not use True Dragon Essence Fire, Imperial Sword with Fire, or other moves with stronger destructive power. Therefore, she did not even manage to break through Qin Yan's shield armor. Lord Qin Yan, do your best. Many instructors who had just entered the sacred hall were all cheering for Qin Yan. They had entered the sacred hall with Qin Yan, and had long treated themselves as Prince Jining Palace's people. Therefore, they naturally would not stand on Lin Muyu's side. On the contrary, Guiyang, Zhang Wei, and the others who were familiar with Lin Muyu's moves all had faint smiles on their faces. Because they could tell that even though Lin Muyu seemed to be at a disadvantage, he was actually going easy on Qin Yan. Because the strongest killing move he had relied on to defeat Zhao Jin, Imperial Sword with Fire, was not even used. However, they did not know that Lin Muyu still had an even stronger ultimate art, 7 Luminaries Profound Energy. Naturally, Lin Muyu did not dare to easily reveal the 7 Luminaries Profound Energy in front of the world. After all, the 7 Luminaries Profound Energy was too shocking. Furthermore, he did not know what kind of glorious history the 7 Luminaries Demon Emperor had. If he were to reveal the 7 Luminaries Profound Energy, there was a high possibility that he would attract a fatal disaster. The incense has burned out, end of battle. Guiyang used a trembling voice to announce, and said, the degree of damage to Lord Lin Ji's defensive layer has surpassed Lord Qin Yan's. Therefore, in this competition, Lord Qin Yan should have a slight advantage. Overall, it can be considered a draw. Lin Muyu raised his finger, controlling the prairie-burning sword through the air to return to its sheath. He cupped his fists and said, Little Prince, thanks for going easy on me. Qin Yan's face flushed slightly red. Nobody would have thought that he was only an 18-year-old youth, even younger than Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi. An 18-year-old youth already had the cultivation of the heaven realm. How terrifying was that? Big brother Lin Ji, actually, you won, I know. Qin Yan's personality was very straightforward. He cupped his fists and said, Qin Yan relied on the advantage of his bloodline and used the 3rd grade martial soul, dragon scale armor, to win against your 10th grade green gourd martial soul. This is not something to be proud of at all. In the future, when Qin Yan cultivates in the holy temple, I hope that big brother Lin Ji can give me some pointers. Lin Muyu could not help secretly praising him, and said with a smile, "Little prince is too courteous. You're still young. If you were the same age as me, and cultivate for another 3 to 5 years, I'm afraid I won't be your match at all." Receiving such praise, Qin Yan could not resist smiling joyfully. He scratched his head and said, "Big brother Lin Ji, don't call me little prince anymore. You and my brother are friends, so naturally, you're also my, Qin Yan's, friend. You can just call me Qin Yan. Just call me by my name. The people in the Duke Manor are all like this." "All right then." Lin Muyu was not some inflexible person either. She immediately said, "Then I'll call you Qin Yan in the future. Let's eat. The Holy Temple's mealtime doesn't wait for people. If we go late, there won't be anything to eat." "Okay." Qin Yan quickly caught up to Lin Muyu's pace, and said with a smile, "Big brother Lin Ji, your sword arts are so powerful. Who did you learn it from?" Lin Muyu knew what he wanted to do with a single glance at his longing expression. She said, "Do you want to learn the imperial sword arts? That's very difficult. Moreover, you major in defense. Why don't you spend more time researching how to raise the defense of the dragon scale armor?" "No, I want to learn." Qin Yan clenched his fists and said, "The 6 arts of martial ancestor: sword, riding, spear, saber, axe, shooting. Among them, the sword is the most important. I've always wanted to learn a unique sword art, but the teachers my royal father invited for me are mostly people who deceive the world. Their imperial sword arts are weak and weak. As long as I'm bumped, I won't be able to continue using it. I also saw it just now. Big brother Lin Ji, your imperial sword arts are vigorous and powerful. Please teach me." This. Lin Muyu was still hesitating. He had already begun to teach Chu Yao the imperial sword arts. If he were to teach Qin Yan as well, it seemed like he could start his own sect and accept disciples. It didn't seem too good to let the sword elder know. Seeing Lin Muyu hesitate, Qin Yan became anxious and said, "How about this? I can prepare a generous gift as the tuition fee for learning the imperial sword arts. 400,000 Jianghu dollars. How about it? Plus, and a piece of beautiful jade from beyond the heavens, a precious tribute from the northern desert Kagan several hundred years ago. How about it?" Lin Muyu couldn't help but laugh and said, "Qin Yan, you are big brother Qin Lei's younger brother. Don't think of me as a greedy person. All right, I can teach you the most basic imperial sword arts, but only the most basic. Don't make me teach you anything else. You have to rely on your own comprehension." Qin Yan was wild with joy and nodded his head repeatedly. He immediately cupped his fists and bowed, saying, "Many thanks, big brother Lin Ji." Due to Qin Yan calling him big brother, the people in the Holy Temple were all dumbstruck. Prince Ji Ning's little prince actually acknowledged him as big brother in the Holy Temple. This seemed to further solidify Lin Muyu's position as the #1 person in the younger generation of the Holy Temple. In the afternoon, after the normal training, he taught Qin Yan a mnemonic chant for Imperial Sword with the Heart, letting him go cultivate on his own. Qin Yan was the same as his older brother, Qin Yan. After obtaining a mnemonic chant, he focused on learning in a room in the side hall. With his noble status, no one dared to disturb him either. Now that Lin Muyu was free, he directly left the Holy Temple. It was time to go visit Chu Yao in the spiritual medicine department. She hadn't seen this big sister for a long time. Her heart was so empty that she seemed to miss her quite a bit. Chapter 99. Black horse carriages transported medicinal ingredients into the spiritual medicine department. Dusk was the warehousing time for the spiritual medicine department. Large amounts of medicinal ingredients purchased from outside the city were being transported into the spiritual medicine department. Chu Yao and the other alchemists were in charge of refining these medicinal ingredients into high-grade healing medicines, gold wound medicine, stone skin medicine, etc., for the various armies of the empire to use. Lin Ji of the Divine Temple requests an audience with Miss Chu Yao of the Medicinal Medicine Department. At the registration area of the Spiritual Medicine Department, Lin Muyu said politely. The two guards recognized him. One of them smiled and said, "It's Sir Lin Ji. Are you here to look for Miss Chu Yao again? Come in, no need to be so reserved. I heard that you defeated the Gold Star instructor Zhao Jin in the Aries College's public trial. That was really amazing. The entire capital is now talking about your legend. Is that so?" Lin Muyu felt a little ashamed. She cupped her fists and smiled. "I was just lucky. Thank you both. I'll be going in then. Go. Take good care of Miss Chu Yao. She is the #1 beauty of our Spiritual Medicine Department. Many high-level alchemists and nobles wish to see her, but she seems to only want to see you." Lin Muyu stepped into the Spiritual Medicine Department. She felt a warm feeling in her heart. The alchemy hall was brightly lit, and all the alchemists were busy refining their medicinal energy. From afar, they could see Chu Yao's graceful figure. Today, she was wearing a light green robe, and looked like she was floating in the air. "Sister Chu Yao." Lin Muyu's call caused Chu Yao's body to tremble. She turned to look at Lin Muyu and couldn't help smiling happily. "Ah, you, how come you have the time to come see me? Didn't I hear that you were in confinement? Last time I wanted to go see you, I was refused by the guards of the temple. They said that no one can see you. How heartless." Lin Muyu naturally knew that Reiham was doing this to protect her. She walked up and sat on Chu Yao's refining table. She crossed her legs and said with a smile, "How's your alchemy going recently?" At the side, an old alchemist around 60 years old smiled and said, "Miss Chu Yao is the youngest saint alchemist here." "Ah. Alchemist saint?" Lin Muyu couldn't help but smile. "Sister Chu Yao, you can refine level 7 medicine?" Chu Yao smiled shyly and nodded. "Yes. That's great." Lin Muyu was excited. She jumped off the refining table and hugged Chu Yao. Chu Yao's beautiful face instantly flushed red. She whispered, "There are so many alchemists watching." "Oh, I'm sorry. I was too excited." Lin Muyu hurriedly put her down and apologized. "It's nothing." Chu Yao's voice was a little soft. Her beautiful eyes didn't dare to look at Lin Muyu. She whispered, "I thought you had already forgotten me after meeting Princess Shi and Her Highness Yin. How could that be?" Even if Lin Muyu was a blockhead, he knew that Chu Yao was jealous. Although his heart was in a mess and he didn't know how to put these beauties in their positions, he still tried his best to appease each and every one of them, so he said, "Big sister Chu Yao will always be my good big sister. No matter what happens in the future, I will never forget you." "Oh right, how did you advance so fast?" Chu Yao nodded and whispered, "Yes, it's because of the divine alchemy cannon. I have already repaired some of the damaged parts of the cannon. That's why I was able to become an alchemist saint so quickly." "Oh. Grandpa has always wanted to become an alchemist saint. I didn't expect that I would achieve this wish in the end." Lin Muyu held her shoulders and said seriously, "If Grandpa knew your current cultivation, his spirit in heaven would definitely feel gratified. Moreover, Grandpa has already been avenged. He will be smiling in the netherworld." Yes. "Oh right, how is Sister Chu Yao's cultivation of the Imperial Sword technique?" Lin Muyu asked again. "Just mastering alchemy is far from enough. After all, if you want to live well in this world, you still need to have a strong fist." Chu Yao giggled and said, "The Imperial Sword technique. I can only control the sword through the air for now, but I still can't truly grasp the heart of the sword." Tell me, how did you grasp the heart of the sword in 2 days and 2 nights? I have been seriously cultivating for more than 10 days and still haven't grasped it." Well, Lin Muyu couldn't say that it was because of her martial talent. She rubbed the back of her head and said with a smile, "It's probably because I didn't do it right. Continue to work hard, you will eventually comprehend it. As long as Sister Chu Yao grasps the heart of the sword, I can teach you the four-elemental imperial sword technique. As he said this, he thought for a moment and continued, the four-elemental imperial sword technique is enough to raise your martial cultivation by a level. At least it will give you the ability to protect yourself. Chu Yao held his hand, her eyes filled with joy. Her beautiful eyes swept up and down Lin Muyu's handsome appearance in the temple's battle robe. She said, Our Yu is now an expert of the temple. Even a level 70 heavenly king like Zhao Jin was defeated. You really surprised me. Your strength is now almost at the level of Big Brother and Big Brother Feng Jixing, right? Lin Muyu couldn't help but feel a little guilty. It was hard to say whether he could defeat Chu Huiran and Feng Jixing now. Feng Jixing's wind blade technique was elegant and domineering, while Chu Huiran's star-plucking finger was extraordinary. Furthermore, the two of them had never used their full strength against him before, so it was hard to say who would win. More importantly, Feng Jixing was the commander of the Imperial Guards, so he must have experienced many battles. In terms of battle experience alone, he probably surpassed Lin Muyu by a lot. So he smiled and said, I don't know. Feng Jixing is a big brother that I will respect for my whole life. Chu Huiran is Sister Chu Yao's brother, so he is also my big brother. No matter who is stronger, I don't think we will have a chance to fight in this lifetime. Yes. Chu Yao smiled and said, You haven't eaten yet, right? How about you eat with me tonight? Okay, it's my treat. Okay. Chu Yao was now a medicine saint in the spiritual medicine department, so her salary wouldn't be bad. However, Lin Muyu's salary was even higher. As long as he was willing, he could quickly become rich in Lanyan City with his alchemy and weapon forging skills. However, money was just a number to him and didn't have any practical meaning. No matter how rich he was, his own strength was the most important thing. He brought Chu Yao to eat a delicious meal in a small alley on the side of Heaven's Passage Street. Afterwards, they went to the Imperial Capital Chamber of Commerce. At night, the Imperial Capital Chamber of Commerce was even more lively. Outside the Chamber of Commerce, there were many shops selling gems. They sold all sorts of beautiful gems. These things were the favorites of the noble madams and misses. Although Chu Yao was beautiful, she wasn't interested in these things. Instead, she was more interested in the long swords in the weaponry department. Lin Muyu saw this and said, Sister Chu Yao, you don't need to be jealous of those weapons. I will forge a good enough weapon for you soon. Don't worry, let's go buy the materials now. Yes. The diamond card user's status was noble, so she quickly found the vice president of the Chamber of Commerce, Jin Xiaotang. This extremely beautiful young lady beamed with joy when she saw Lin Muyu. Master Lin Ji, what do you need this time? Her gaze landed on Chu Yao, revealing a trace of amazement, and said, Wow, this time, Lord even brought a female companion. Cough, Lin Muyu coughed, dispelling Chu Yao's awkwardness and said, Miss Jean, this time I came to ask for some high-level spirit stones and ironware. If you have them, please introduce them to me. Okay, do you have any specific requirements? I need an ice spirit stone with a long lifespan. The rest is up to you. Okay. Jin Xiaotang swayed her little but as she walked in front and said with a smile, Master Lin Ji's luck is not bad. The Spirit Stone store just received a batch of top-grade spirit stones from Lingnan. It is said that there is a 11,000-year-old Frost Qilin spirit stone. I wonder if Master Lin Ji is willing to pay a high price for it. Oh. How much? Jin Xiaotang raised 3 fingers and said with a smile, I'll give you a discount, 30,000 Jin dollars. How about that? Lin Muyu looked at her inventory and said, Not enough, I only have 20,000 Jin dollars. Can I buy it on credit? Jin Xiaotang giggled as her eyes shone with wisdom. Then you must first tell me, what do you need these spirit stones for? Weapon forging. Weapon forging? Jin Xiaotang blinked, her face full of shock. What grade of weapon can Master Lin Ji forge? Mysterious grade, very low, right? No. Jin Xiaotang quickly shook her head and said, if mysterious grade is still considered low, then I'm afraid the blacksmiths in the imperial capital will be embarrassed. How about this, I can buy it on credit, but Master Lin Ji has to give me a portion of the weapon after you forge it and let me sell it in the auction house. This will increase the competitiveness of our auction house. Is Master willing? Okay, no problem. There was nothing better than a business that cost nothing. Jin Xiaotang smiled happily. This was business. She had the treasures that Lin Ji needed, and Lin Ji had the mysterious weapon forging skills that Jin Xiaotang needed. The transaction was immediately completed. When the 11,000-year-old spirit stone landed in her hand, a faint chill lingered in her palm. Lin Muyu clicked her tongue in wonder. Although it's very expensive, it is indeed a very valuable spirit stone. Jin Xiaotang giggled. Of course. I heard that a mercenary group from Lingnan sent over 2,000 people to hunt it down. More than 300 people died because of this ice kirin, including a heavenly realm elite. Honestly, 30,000 Jin Yin coins is too cheap. You can't raise the price just like that. Lin Muyu said warily. Jin Xiaotang couldn't help but smile. Xiaotang is a businessman, and I am trustworthy. Don't worry, Master Lin Ji. Thus, other than this spirit stone, Lin Muyu also bought an 8,000-year ice spirit stone on credit, as well as some rare 1,000-year black iron and spirit stones under 5,000-year. After buying a large cart of things, Jin Xiaotang gave him a horse carriage and told him to drive it back to the Saint Palace. He would first send Xu Yao back, then quickly return to the Saint Palace. It was time to become a weapon-forging grandmaster that would be respected by the world. Chapter 100. Deep in the night, the flickering flames in the secret chamber flickered faintly as the energy of the cauldron spread throughout the room. Lin Muyu closed his eyes as the energy of the spirit pulse technique rippled out. He could feel the aura closest to him, but it was not strong. It belonged to an ordinary person, most likely a servant. This time, Lei Hong did not come over to peek at his training. Opening his palm, the pear blossom spear emitted a buzzing sound. This was a unique weapon, and even Lin Muyu could feel the chill from the long hilt. Lulu's body slowly flew out, and she said with a smile, "Wow, it's the 1,000 cold wrought iron, 1,000 cold wrought iron?" Lin Muyu was surprised. Lulu nodded, flapping her transparent wings, and continued, "The 1,000 cold wrought iron is a type of iron that has been condensed in a cold pond for thousands of years. It is extremely rare in the world, and it is also one of the few rare metals that contain cold spiritual energy. Big brother, this spear is a treasure. Although the soul refining energy is very weak, the iron within the spear itself is extremely rare." Just as I expected. Lin Muyu was secretly delighted. In Zhao Jin's hands, the pear blossom spear was indeed a deadly weapon. It was just that Zhao Jin did not know the true value of the pear blossom spear. Using a grandmaster's blacksmithing technique and a powerful spirit stone to refine the soul, the grade of the pear blossom spear could be raised to a whole new level. And tonight would be the day of the pear blossom spear's reforging. With a light push of both hands, the pear blossom spear immediately entered the flames of the cauldron. The third layer of flame refining, earth fire, rose up, but it did not seem to be able to heat the spear very quickly. After burning for close to an hour, the pear blossom spear finally turned a fiery red. Lin Muyu did not dare to continue smelting it, or else the cold spiritual energy within the 1,000 cold wrought iron would run out. She hurriedly activated the earth fire and melted the spear. Just as the spear was about to be melted, a flood dragon spirit suddenly pounced on her. Roar! Lin Muyu couldn't help but smile. This was a young water dragon with a lifespan of over 3,000 years. Its power was very limited, and it wasn't its match at all. Lin Muyu didn't even need to make a move. She just let out a low roar, and her battle chi surged out. Just by relying on the wind from her battle chi, the pear blossom spear was completely destroyed. At this point, the pear blossom spear had become an iron paste without a beast soul. Hua hua, the fiery red iron paste flowed within the cauldron and was repeatedly refined. streaks of fiery red starlight flew out, causing the iron quality of the spear to become even more refined. At the same time, Lin Muyu also took out the 11,000-year-old Frost Qilin spirit stone and placed it into the cauldron. She began to refine the spirit stone. With the two refining processes carried out at the same time, she was completely able to control it. The process of refining the spirit stone was even longer. After close to 3 hours, the Frost Qilin spirit stone finally began to slowly tremble, and the faint roar of a ferocious beast could be heard. Moreover, spiritual energy began to spread out in the surroundings, and a dense cold energy instantly enveloped the entire room. Even the stone bed at the side began to crackle with a layer of frost. The half-empty pot of wine on the table also cracked with a bang. Roar. Beast's soul backlash. This was an unusually mighty ice qilin, and it was an adult spirit beast. Its body was covered in dark blue scales, and its pair of icy blue eyes were emotionless. It opened its mouth wide and charged towards Lin Muyu. Although it was only a beast spirit, the aura of a king that had descended from the heavens was unmistakable at this moment. "I've been waiting for you." Lin Muyu smiled slightly and raised her hand confidently. The burning prairie sword beside her was already prepared. It spun at high speed, and a spiral of true dragon essence fire slammed into the Frost Qilin's body before it could get close. The dragon flame spiral break's penetrative power was so strong that even the Frost Qilin's scales could not defend against it. In an instant, a huge spiritual energy wound was pierced through, but it still continued to roar and rush over. Lin Muyu gritted her teeth. She never thought that the beast's soul contained in this 11,000-year-old spirit stone would be so strong. She hurriedly took a step back, and with her left fist, the 7 luminaries' Xian energy danced as she shouted, "Chaos of the common people." Pung! The Frost Qilin's spiritual energy was shattered, but it could not stop its momentum. It raised its sharp claws and landed on Lin Muyu's left arm, leaving a terrible scratch on it. Frost quickly condensed on it. Lin Muyu frowned. Damn, an 11,000-year-old spirit beast is really abnormal, like a monster. Her right fist trembled slightly, and a blood-red demonic energy surrounded it. Before the Frost Qilin could launch a second attack, she punched towards its chest, 2 luminaries' demonic dance. Boom! An extremely strong impact rippled out from her fist and directly blasted a big hole in the Frost Qilin's chest. The aftermath of the impact hit the inner wall of the treasure refining cauldron. Fortunately, they had the protection of the treasure refining cauldron. Otherwise, this attack from Lin Muyu would have turned the secret room into a pile of ruins. Roar, roar, the Frost Qilin roared angrily, but it no longer had any strength to resist. The fire was like a giant dragon that wrapped around it, refining it inch by inch into spiritual energy. Drop by drop, it fell into the molten iron formed by the pear blossom spear. In an instant, the scorching hot molten iron seemed to have cooled down a lot. The Frost Qilin's pure power of ice was not fake. A numb feeling came from her left arm, and Lin Muyu frowned. The Frost Qilin's attack was a bit ruthless, and the chill had already entered her body. She hurriedly circulated her combat chi to force the chill out. Fortunately, the heat in the treasure refining cauldron was very strong, or else she would have lost all feeling in this half of her body. As she healed herself, she reforged the pear blossom spear. Lulu redesigned the appearance of the pear blossom spear. The head of the spear was designed with a sharp triangular shape, giving it a murderous look. Lin Muyu, on the other hand, very meticulously sent her spiritual sense into the treasure refining cauldron to refine the spear head repeatedly, turning the design of the spear head into layers of blades. Although it did not look any different at first glance, in fact, there were at least 100 layers of blades. Each layer of blades supported each other, greatly reducing the force of impact, greatly reducing the wear and tear on the spear head, and also making the spear head tougher and sharper. After almost half an hour of reforging, the pear blossom spear was reforged. It was even sharper than before, and contained an endless chill. When the light from the treasure refining cauldron disappeared, the fiery red pear blossom spear actually cooled down by itself. The Frost Qilin beast soul appeared on the spearhead, and with a roar, its spirit chi turned into snowflakes that floated down. With a pop, the heavy pear blossom spear fell into Lin Muyu's hand. Waves of chill seeped into her palm, and Lin Muyu could feel the frost Chilan beast soul responding to his feelings. Because this spear was personally reforged by him, he could use the pear blossom spear more smoothly than anyone else. The frost Chilan's power would be restrained and released according to his strength, which was very magical. Wiping away the sweat on his forehead, Lin Muyu said with a smile, "It's finally done." "Lulu, what rank is this pear blossom spear now?" Lulu flapped her wings and flew slowly around his shoulder. She said with a smile, "According to the ranking of the Empire's armory, this pear blossom spear's spirit refining effect, frost iron purity, overall toughness, and sharpness should all belong to the 6th level saint rank." 6th level saint rank? Lin Muyu asked with a smile, "Is it very powerful?" Lulu giggled. "The number of saint rank weapons on this continent is very rare, and there are less than 100 of them. Brother, do you think this pear blossom spear is powerful? Then it must be quite powerful." Lin Muyu was secretly delighted. If he took this pear blossom spear to the armory, it would definitely fetch a price of more than 100,000 Jianghu coins. Money came so easily, but he didn't seem to need that much money. Moreover, he still understood the principle of a man's wealth being his own ruin, so it was better for the pear blossom spear not to appear easily in front of experts. Thus, he wrapped the pear blossom spear in black cloth and placed it in a corner of the secret room. Then, he began to forge the weapon for Chu Yao. 8,000 years old frost spirit stone and a sufficient amount of 1,000-year dark iron were all very rare materials. It took almost 2 hours to complete. Its shape and design were somewhat similar to the pear blossom spear. The design of the sword hilt was like a budding pear blossom. The blade was like blood and had 3 blood grooves. With a light flick, it would let out a melodious sword cry. "Sister Chu Yao will definitely like this pear blossom sword," he said happily. Lulu flew to the side and said with a smile, 4th level mysterious rank, it's about the same as brother's prairie fire sword. He placed the pear blossom sword at the side and looked at the materials. There was still a lot of 1,000-year dark steel left, and there were various kinds of spirit stones between 3,000 and 5,000 years old. He began to forge them one by one. Because swords were more economical in materials, he used all of them to forge swords. Moreover, swords were the most popular weapons in the Empire, and they were worth a lot when sold. It would be a waste if they were used to forge battle axes, long knives, and other long-handled weapons. All the work was only completed when the sun rose. A total of 5 swords were forged, and they were named according to their appearance and spirit stone's attributes. Alcade, 1st level spirit grade, light attribute frost goose, 2nd level spirit grade, ice attribute heavenly sound, 2nd level spirit grade, ice attribute thunder slash, 2nd level spirit grade, lightning attribute swift wind, 3rd level spirit grade, wind attribute. He wrapped all the swords in black cloth without even preparing a scabbard. Lin Muyu had already made up his mind. According to the agreement, he would sell these swords to Jin Xiaotang's auction house, and he really needed money now. If he sold these swords at a low price to the divine sanctum, he might not even have the money to exchange for the 30,000 Jianghu coins he owed Jin Xiaotang. He hurriedly ate his breakfast and packed the 5 swords into the backpack on the warhorses, but then, he turned around and used the white cloak of the divine sanctum's battle robe to cover the swords. Just like that, he went to the trading house in the capital with hope. Although these 5 swords were not rare, they were definitely not the inferior weapons circulating in the market. They could definitely be sold for a good price. Chapter 101. Uncle Wang, how is it? Have you appraised it? Jin Xiaotang, who was dressed in a long white dress, urged the appraiser beside her with a smile. Wang Jinyan, the #1 weapon appraiser of the Imperial Chamber of Commerce, was a middle-aged man in his 50s. He pressed his hand on the thunder slash and poured his true qi into the blade. Immediately, there was a strong reaction. Streaks of lightning appeared on the blade. After feeling it for nearly 10 seconds, he opened his eyes and said, "Miss, this thunder slash is a second stage spirit grade." Jin Xiaotang couldn't help but clap her hands and chuckle, "Wow, a high-grade spirit grade sword. That's great." She looked at Lin Muyu excitedly and asked, "Master Lin Ji, how did you do it?" "There are many blacksmiths in the Imperial Chamber of Commerce, but they can only forge 7th stage spirit grade weapons with 4,000 years old spirit stones and 1,000 years old dark steel. How did you forge a 2nd stage spirit grade weapon?" "This. I can't reveal it." Lin Muyu smiled slightly. He didn't want to talk about it, and Jin Xiaotang didn't ask. This deputy chief of the Capital Chamber of Commerce was shrewd beyond his age. He knew how to read people's expressions and weigh the pros and cons. To the Capital Chamber of Commerce, Lin Muyu was a cash cow. Moreover, he was a mysterious expert. This kind of person was priceless and couldn't be offended easily. At this time, Wang Jinyan moved his hand away from the alcade and said with a shocked expression, "Young mistress, this alcade is a 1st stage spirit grade, a 1st stage spirit grade." Jin Xiaotang couldn't help but be speechless and said with a smile, "That's great, Uncle Wang. Go and tell the Imperial Chamber of Commerce to spread the news that there will be an auction this afternoon and the main focus will be these 5 spirit grade swords. I believe many rich young masters won't let go of this opportunity." "Yes." Jin Xiaotang turned around happily and looked at Lin Muyu. She said with a smile, "Master Lin Ji, I can't give you money for now, but can I invite you to the auction this afternoon? These 5 swords will be sold publicly. If necessary, we will introduce you to the blacksmith master." "No need." Lin Muyu shook her head and said, "I only want money. Everything else is not important. Miss Jean, please don't tell anyone about me. If I have any good weapons in the future, I will sell them here." "All right, little Tang understands. Then I will come to get the money after dinner." "Okay." Lin Muyu returned to the Holy Palace just in time for the morning training. Her opponent was Li Mingyi, the new Golden Star instructor who had just joined the Holy Palace. However, he was only a battle saint, 1 level lower than Lin Muyu. Therefore, he was no match for Li Mingyi. Moreover, Li Mingyi had witnessed Lin Muyu's 4 elemental sword kinesis manipulation and was deeply shocked by it. Naturally, he respected Lin Muyu very much. Thus, the morning's training was boring. Even when Lin Muyu was sparring with Li Mingyi, Lin Muyu was secretly cultivating the dragon forging bone remnant scroll to increase the purity of his do qi. After the training was over, everyone gathered in the hall of the trial hall. Guiyang walked over while trembling and said, "Dear lords of the Holy Palace, I have some news to announce. Our Gold Star instructor Zhao Jin has recovered from his injuries and has returned to the Holy Palace." At the entrance, Zhao Jin walked over wearing the Holy Palace's battle robe. However, because his right arm was cut off by Lin Muyu, his sleeves were empty. He looked out of place. His face was filled with killing intent. He held a new spear in his left hand and walked in step by step. He looked at Lin Muyu coldly and said, "Lord Lin Ji, you didn't expect that I, Zhao Jin, would return to the Holy Palace, did you?" Lin Muyu said indifferently, "You are a member of the Holy Palace. What's so strange about your return?" Zhao Jin held the spear with one arm and sneered, "Lin Ji, do you think that I, Zhao Jin, have become a cripple after losing an arm? Just you wait, I will make you pay for what I lost." "Is that so?" Lin Muyu raised an eyebrow and said, "You wanted to kill me first in Ares College's trial grounds. Then don't blame me for not being courteous. If you want to take revenge, I will accompany you anytime." "You!" Zhao Jin was exasperated. Just at this time, a person walked out from the Gold Star instructor. It was Qin Yan who was carrying the fire serpent spear. He raised his eyebrows and said, "Lord Zhao Jin, you still want to challenge Lin Ji after losing an arm? If you really don't fear death, I, Qin Yan, am willing to accompany you. I will be very happy to send you to hell." "Qin Yan." "Young lord," Zhao Jin's face turned cold. Qin Yan's status was completely different from Lin Muyu. He was a first-class noble. Even if Qin Yan killed him, there would not be any heavy punishment. Moreover, Zhao Jin also did not expect that Qin Yan would come to the Holy Palace. For a moment, he held his spear and did not know whether to advance or retreat. Guiyang said loudly, "All right, don't quarrel anymore. Whatever grudges in the past are already in the past. Since you have entered the Holy Palace, you have to abide by the rules of the Holy Palace and are not allowed to fight privately. Otherwise, you will be expelled according to the Holy Palace's laws." Understood? Lin Muyu and Qin Yan cupped their fists in unison and said, "Yes, head deacon." Zhao Jin glared at Lin Muyu hatefully and did not say anything else either. He carried his spear and returned to the team. There was nothing to do in the afternoon, so Lin Muyu slept soundly in the secret chamber for the entire afternoon, making up for the sleep lost from staying up late to forge swords the night before. All the way until it was close to dusk. After finishing dinner, he spurred his horse out of the Holy Palace and headed straight for the Imperial Capital Trading Company. Only after entering the trading company did he discover that there seemed to be more people than usual today. Jin Xiaotang came out from the main hall to welcome him with a smile and said, "Lord Lin Ji, you've come? How was the auction?" he asked. It was very popular. Jin Xiaotang walked forward happily and didn't try to avoid arousing suspicion. She held on to Lin Muyu's arm and said with a smile, "Lord Lin Ji, your 5 swords have attracted at least 3,000 customers. Even the commander of the Imperial Army, Lord Qin Lei, has come. He bought that first-tier spirit-grade Alchemy for 10,000 Jin Yin coins." Damn. Lin Muyu sighed inwardly. Qin Lei actually wanted this sword. It looked like she would have to forge an even stronger sword in the future and gift it to this big brother who had once gone through life and death with her. What's the total value? The total value of the 5 swords is 37,000 Jin Yin coins. I'll take 10% of the cost and round it up to a round number. I'll give you 34,000 Jin Yin coins. Here, this is 34 diamond coins. Jin Xiaotang took out a heavy bag. Lin Muyu smiled and only took 4 diamond coins. He returned the rest to Jin Xiaotang and said with a smile, "I bought a lot of materials before on credit, so these 30,000 Jin Yin coins still belong to Miss Jin." Jin Xiaotang blinked and said, "Lord Lin Ji, didn't you also buy a 11,000-year spirit stone and an 800-year spirit stone? Why don't I see the weapons of these 2 beast spirits?" About this, Lin Muyu felt a bit helpless and didn't know how to answer. At this time, Jin Xiaotang's gaze landed on the pear blossom sword in his hand and couldn't help but exclaim, This sword. Can you let Xiaotang take a look?" "Yes." Lin Muyu handed over the sword. Jin Xiaotang unsheathed the sword with a clang. The sword's blade was as bright as moonlight, and when she infused it with true energy, she found that the power of frost condensed into ice flowers dancing around the blade. It was extremely beautiful, and she couldn't help but gape, "Wow! Lord Lin Ji, what is the origin of this sword? It's so beautiful, and it's too strong. Xiaotang has never seen a sword like this before. This is mysterious rank, right?" "Yes." Lin Muyu nodded and said, "It's a 3rd-level mysterious rank sword called the Pear Blossom Sword. I made it for my friend, so it can't be sold in the auction house for now. Moreover, I've bought almost all the high-grade spirit stones in the auction house." Jin Xiaotang giggled, "You don't need to worry about spirit stones. Xiaotang will have people collect spirit stones from all over the world. Once there are spirit stones over 5,000 years old, I'll inform you. Is that okay?" Lin Muyu helplessly said, "Miss Xiaotang, forging these swords has already exhausted me to the point of exhaustion. Forging weapons is a very tiring matter. You can't continue to squeeze me like this." All right. Jin Xiaotang clasped her hands behind her back like a girl next door and smiled, "Then, if there are any high-grade spirit stones, I'll keep them and wait for Lord Lin Ji to purchase them. How about it?" All right." After leaving the Imperial Trading Company, he went straight to the Spirit Medicine Department. It was time to give the pear blossom sword to Chu Yao. At night, the spirit medicine department was brightly lit. Purple lanterns flickered with a bewitching luster. Lin Muyu hugged the pear blossom sword wrapped in a black cloth. The pear blossom sword was a mysterious rank treasure sword. At night, it would emit a luster. Normally, this kind of treasured weapon could be recognized at a glance. Therefore, it was wrapped in a white cloth. The alchemists had finished their tasks for the day and were already resting. Chu Yao's room was in the southern courtyard of the medicine refining hall. There were a total of 4 rooms, and 4 alchemists lived there. However, only Chu Yao was a girl. Even so, nothing bad would happen. After all, there were guards outside every courtyard. The spirit medicine department was the cradle of high-grade alchemists in the imperial capital. For the empire, the spirit medicine department was a treasure. They would definitely be willing to spend money to protect these unarmed alchemists. Within the courtyard, there was a crabapple tree that emitted a faint fragrance. Chu Yao stood at the foot of the tree, looking like a proud jade tree made of ice and snow. Strands of true energy flowed around her, and an iron sword floated in the air beside her, slowly rotating. Dong, 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 Lin Muyu knocked on the door and said with a smile, "Sister Chu Yao?" "Ah." Chu Yao suddenly opened her eyes. Her heart was in a mess. Naturally, the ability to use her heart to control the sword disappeared. The iron sword fell on the stone floor with a dang sound. She turned around and opened the door. She said with a smile, Why are you so late?" Lin Muyu mysteriously patted the cloth in her hands and said, "I brought you a gift." "What?" "See for yourself." Chu Yao took the gift and opened the cloth layer by layer. When the transparent and resplendent pear blossom sword came into view, her delicate body suddenly trembled. Her eyes revealed a misty luster. This is Chapter 102. This sword was forged from 1,000-year iron and 8,000-year spirit stones. Because it is of the ice attribute and has a unique design, I named it Pear Blossom Sword. Lin Muyu said with a smile, "I even reforged Zhao Jin's Pear Blossom Spear. Its design is very similar to this sword, so the sword and the spear should be a set." Chu Yao blushed and said happily, This Pear Blossom Sword is really a set with the Pear Blossom Spear?" "Of course, what do you think? If I didn't have the Prairie Fire Sword, I really wouldn't bear to give this Pear Blossom Sword to you," he said half-jokingly. Chu Yao caressed the sword lovingly and said, What grade is this Pear Blossom Sword?" "4th level mystic grade." "Ah." Chu Yao was shocked. 4th level mystic grade? "I heard that. Mystic grade weapons are very expensive, at least 10,000 Jin coins." As she said this, she handed the Pear Blossom Sword back and said, "Such a precious sword, why don't you sell it?" "It's too much of a waste for me to use, I'll just use a spirit grade weapon." Lin Muyu couldn't help but laugh inwardly and said, "Sister Chu Yao, what's so precious about a mere 4th level mystic grade Pear Blossom Sword? As long as I want it, I can forge countless Pear Blossom Swords. Keep it, this sword was specially designed for you, how can you not want it?" "Then, alright." Chu Yao gripped the hilt tightly, feeling her heart beating wildly. She said again, I'm about to comprehend the heart of the sword." "Really?" "Yes." Chu Yao nodded seriously and then closed her eyes. Streams of blade-like true energy flowed on the surface of her body. This was indeed the initial form of the heart of the sword. Lin Muyu couldn't help but laugh. Sister Chu Yao's talent is indeed not bad. When you truly comprehend the heart of the sword, you can go and fuse with the beast soul inside the Pear Blossom Sword. When you complete this step, I'll teach you the 4-elemental sword kinesis." "Yes, all right." Without staying for too long, Lin Muyu left the spirit medicine division. At this time, she suddenly felt a strong sense of weakness. Finally, after forging so many weapons in one night, her physical strength and combat chi were overdrawn. Without thinking too much about it, she lay down on the stone bed and fell into a deep sleep. He was in a daze for an unknown period of time before he slowly woke up. Gigi, as far as the eye could see, a gray rat was looking up at Lin Muyu from the corner of the wall. Surprisingly, it wasn't afraid of people. Lin Muyu, who had just woken up, happened to be at its peak. The cultivation of the spirit pulse technique had caused the power of his soul to surge endlessly. At that moment, it was as if his spiritual sense was about to condense into a focal point. Lin Muyu couldn't help but be stunned. He then guided his spiritual sense to gather together and used it to attack the mouse in the corner like a sharp knife. Gee! The mouse's cry came to an abrupt halt. Its pupils rapidly enlarged, and it unexpectedly stopped there motionlessly. Lin Muyu was a little surprised. He turned over and got off the bed. He walked in front of the mouse and lowered his head to look at it. He found that the mouse seemed to be in a daze. It actually didn't move at all. After a full 10 seconds, it finally made a G sound again. Then, it turned around and went back into the mouse hole behind it. What's going on? Lin Muyu muttered to himself. His mind recalled everything that had just happened. The spirit pulse technique actually gathered his spiritual sense to attack others. Could it be that this was the method of using mental strength to attack? Thinking of this, he couldn't help but become excited. He hurriedly washed up and went to the holy temple. He had to find someone to practice it on. Lord Lin Ji. Zhang Wei walked over with a saber in his hand. He said with a smile, "You woke up so early." "Yes, Lord Zhang Wei." Lin Muyu's heart moved. He smiled and said, "Lord Zhang Wei, I want to ask you for a favor." Stand here and don't move." "Okay." Zhang Wei stood in front of him and said with a smile, "I don't know what you want to do." Lin Muyu did not say anything. Her expression was extremely solemn. Suddenly, she activated the spirit pulse technique and focused her spiritual perception on one point, attacking Zhang Wei's brain. It was also at this moment that Zhang Wei's entire body seemed to have been petrified. However, this process was extremely short, not even half a second. He was stunned for a moment and asked, "What happened? What did you feel just now?" Lin Muyu asked. Zhang Wei was stunned. He scratched his head and said, "I just felt that my mind suddenly went blank. I don't know what happened." "Lord Lin Ji, what did you do to me just now?" "No, nothing." Lin Muyu laughed. He was thinking that the spirit pulse technique's mental attack would be much less effective against people with a stronger soul. Zhang Wei's soul was obviously much stronger than the mouse's, so it could only attack him for less than half a second. It seemed that there was still a long way to go before the spirit pulse technique could be used in actual combat. Early in the morning, Guiyang took the scroll and started to announce the pairs for the morning training. But after he finished, he didn't call out Lin Muyu and Zhang Wei's names. Zhang Wei couldn't help but ask, "Deacon Guiyang, did you forget about me and Lord Lin Ji?" Guiyang laughed, "No, although this old man is old, I still won't forget the two of you. Lin Ji, Zhang Wei, the two of you will go out for a mission this morning." "Oh." Lin Muyu was stunned. After entering the temple, other than the daily training, there weren't many missions. This was the first time. So she asked, "What mission, Grandpa Guiyang?" Guiyang stroked his beard and laughed, "Simple. The two of you will bring 50 temple guards to the Ministry of War's military warehouse to collect the weapons, rations, and salaries for the next 3 months." "Yes." After exiting the training hall, there was already a group of guards waiting outside. The so-called temple guards were the soldiers who carried out the mission of guarding the temple. These soldiers didn't belong to the temple directly, but they lived in the temple all year round to serve as instructors and sparring partners. Currently, there were more than 200 temple guards in the temple, which was considered a military force. "Sir, the carriage is ready. This is the Grand Deacon's approval." A guard walked up and handed Lei Hong's approval to Lin Muyu. It was as if he had tacitly agreed that Lin Muyu was the leader of the group, and not Zhang Wei. However, Zhang Wei wasn't angry. He knew that he had acted rashly, and Lin Muyu was more suitable to carry out this mission. Let's go, lead the way. Yes. Leaping onto the horse, the group left the temple in a grandiose manner. Lin Muyu and Zhang Wei were both wearing the temple's battle robes, giving off a heroic aura. As the group walked along Tong Tian Street, they attracted a lot of attention. The military warehouse was to the north of the imperial city. When the group from temple arrived, they discovered that it was filled with people. Other than the temple, there were also many soldiers waiting to distribute the rations. Outside of the military warehouse, there were people shouting and horses neighing. Rows of heavy cavalry galloped past, creating a chaotic scene. Lin Muyu frowned and said, "What do we do now?" "This subordinate will go and hand in the document." A temple guard said. "Good." Outside the military warehouse was a temporary camp. The temple guard rode his horse away, and not long after he entered the camp, he returned with a face full of anger and shame, and the document in his hand was still tightly gripped. "What's wrong?" Lin Muyu asked. The temple guard said angrily, "That bastard military officer is purposely making things difficult for us. He wants us to queue up a little longer, and the temple's army needs to wait for the God Might Battalion to finish distributing the rations." "On what basis?" Zhang Wei's temper flared up, and he said angrily, "The God Might Battalion is the private army of the Divine Marquis residents. They should not be receiving rations from the imperial capital, and they actually arranged for them to be in front of the temple. Don't the Ministry of War know that there are no restrictions on the temple's rations?" The guard said in a low voice, "Master Zhang Wei, it must be because the temple did not give them any benefits, that's why they are purposely making things difficult for us." Preposterous. Zhang Wei raised his blade and charged into the military warehouse. Lin Muyu did not even have time to stop him, and hurriedly said, "Men, follow me." "Yes." He hurriedly led dozens of temple guards and chased after Zhang Wei, but when Lin Muyu arrived at the front of the tent, he heard a bang, and immediately saw a person flying out from the tent, spitting out blood, and his chest was covered in flames. It was obviously caused by Zhang Wei's fiery soul fist. Voila! Zhang Wei quickly stepped out of the tent, his fists were surrounded by the power of his martial spirit, and he said in a low voice, "You dog official, if we don't give you gold, you dare to make things difficult for the temple?" The military officer looked like a rat and hurriedly shouted, "Murder, murder, the temple's instructor is going to commit murder in broad daylight. You still dare to howl?" Zhang Wei raised his fist and was about to hit him, but Lin Muyu hurriedly got off the horse and blocked Zhang Wei's fist and said, "Calm down, Zhang Wei. This despicable person, I will teach him a lesson today." Zhang Wei's explosive temper was completely out of control, and he angrily scolded, "Why does the Divine Might Battalion have to collect their military supplies before the temple? It is obvious that we came first. What is the Divine Might Battalion? What right do they have to be so arrogant?" At this time, a cold voice suddenly came from the right, "Yo, the temple's gold star instructor Zhang Wei, your fists are indeed explosive, but your temper is even more explosive, you really don't know your place." Lin Muyu looked over, and when he saw a group of soldiers from the God Might Battalion marching over aggressively under the leadership of a general, he already knew that things were not looking good. Walking forward quickly, Lin Muyu cupped his fists and said, "Sir, Temple's Lin Ji apologizes to you here." Lin Ji? The person who came was a middle-aged military officer around the age of 30, his eyes were reserved, and his steps were steady, he was obviously an expert. The corner of his mouth curled up, and he said, "You are the Lin Ji who crippled Zhao Kuang's arm?" How awe-inspiring. Lin Muyu replied coldly, "Sir, Zhang Wei did not mean to offend you. Since the Divine Might Battalion wants to collect their supplies first, then you guys can go first." The man suddenly laughed out loud. "You put it so nicely, you beat up the military officer, are you trying to walk away? Then what do you want?" Lin Muyu's gaze was cold, he suddenly pulled out the prairie fire sword, and said indifferently, "Temple has fewer people, but that does not mean that they are afraid of you." The 1,000-man commander of the Divine Might Battalion was not someone who was easy to deal with. He pulled out the sword by his waist, and bellowed, "Men, go and seize the weapons of the temple's army." Chapter 103. Dang, Dang, dang. The group of steel guards from the God Prestige Battalion pulled out their swords and sabers. Each of them had a fierce look on their faces. Many of them had already released their martial spirits. The glow of their beast martial spirits and tool martial spirits merged together, as their Jinqi penetrated through their swords, revealing their sharpness. Zhang Wei unsheathed the sword on his waist, and his fire-bear martial spirit roared, causing his cloak to flutter. Waves of wind swept out in all directions. This gold star instructor from the temple had an arrogant look on his face, and he growled at the 1,000-man commander of the God Might Battalion. Sikong Nan, don't think that you can do whatever you want just because the Divine Marquis thinks highly of you. Don't forget, the temple has special permission from His Majesty to have priority in obtaining military equipment. Sikong Nan laughed out loud. The shadow of a purple longsword appeared on the blade of his sword. It was his martial soul. It was surging with power, and the blade was surrounded by a thick layer of battle energy. Lin Muyu remained silent. She looked at Sikong Nan and the increasing number of soldiers from the Divine Might Battalion. Sikong Nan was the strongest in this group. He was at the first sky of the Heaven Realm. The rest were 2/3 sky of the Earth Realm Battle Saints. Behind them were dozens of second sky of the Earth Realm Battle Venerables. Although this was only the tip of the iceberg of the Divine Marquis in Yifun's strength, it was still enough to make people speechless. More than half of the soldiers had martial souls, and dozens of them had reached the Earth Realm. It was no wonder that the 5,000 soldiers from the Divine Might Battalion could withstand the 30,000 soldiers of the Imperial Army. Seize their weapons for me. Sikong Nan let out a fierce roar, and the douqi on his blade became more and more intense. Dang! At the moment when the swords were drawn, Lin Muyu suddenly pulled out the Burning Prairie sword. Infusing her battle energy, the fire dragon's sword spirit let out a low roar. The flames turned into a wave of heat that blew out in all directions. In an instant, the Divine Might Battalion soldiers at the front were forced to take a few steps back. They couldn't even withstand the impact of Lin Muyu's aura. We are from the Divine Temple. Whoever dares to seize our weapons, come and try. If you want to seize the weapons of the Divine Temple, you will have to step over my dead body first. Lin Muyu's gaze was cold. The indigo martial spirit gourd emerged from her body and formed a protective barrier around the Sacred Hall battle robe. Sikong Nan sneered, Lin Ji, you still dare to show your measly 10th grade martial spirit? Aren't you afraid that others will laugh their heads off? Men, disarm them by force. A group of soldiers from the Divine Might Battalion rushed over, each of them wielding a long sword in their hands. Their martial souls howled, and in the next moment, more than 10 beams of sword chi turned into rays of light as they shot towards Lin Fan. Courting death. Zhang Wei roared, and his sword swept out with the flame force of the fire bear martial soul. Zhang Wei, don't kill them. Lin Muyu shouted in a low voice, and at the same time, she raised her douqi to strengthen the protective barrier. In the next moment, countless beams of sword chi shot out from the gourd's walls. Streaks of sword chi flew around like bullets, and at the same time, Sikong Nan's long sword had already struck out like a poisonous snake. With a pang sound, it pierced a hole in the black tortoise shell. Douqi continuously surged towards the protective barrier, and Lin Muyu almost instantly repaired the black tortoise shell. At the same time, she leaped up, raised the Burning Prairie sword, and slashed towards Sikong Nan's neck. Humph. Sikong Nan snorted coldly, and his long sword blocked the Burning Prairie sword's attack. However, at this moment, Lin Muyu suddenly released her hand, and the Burning Prairie sword pierced towards Sikong Nan from a strange angle. This move was too fast and accurate, and Sikong Nan was caught off guard. Pung! The protective barrier formed by douqi suddenly collapsed, and Sikong Nan retreated a few steps. A trace of surprise flashed across his eyes, but his reaction speed was extremely fast. The edge of his sword abruptly collided upwards, and with a ding sound, the Burning Prairie sword was knocked away. Sikong Nan's body flashed, and the long sword carried a blood-red glow as it slashed towards the area between Lin Muyu's neck. This was a killing blow. This sword was astonishingly fast, but Lin Muyu's speed was even faster. A starlight flashed under her feet, and the falling star steps was activated in an instant. At the same time that Sikong Nan's sword missed, he saw Lin Muyu raise her arm and punch into the distance. Pung! The demonic sonic fist, which carried the glow of Do Qi, pierced through the crowd, and forced 3 soldiers of the God Might Battalion to retreat. However, Lin Muyu clearly didn't want to kill anyone here, so she didn't directly use the demonic sonic fist to attack their vitals. Otherwise, none of them would have been able to dodge it. The demonic sonic fist wrapped around her right fist, and with a flick of her left hand, the burning prairie sword in the air transformed into a beam of fiery light and shot towards Sikong Nan. Amidst the deafening sound of the sword clashing, Sikong Nan retreated several steps. At this moment, his heart was extremely shaken, and he thought to himself, what kind of divine being is this kid? He can actually do 2 things at the same time. The fiery spiral of Do Qi is so domineering that it actually caused my arms to go numb. What a freak. On the side, Zhang Wei's sword skills were unrestrained. In addition to the attacks of Lin Muyu and the Templar Knights, close to 100 soldiers of the God Might Battalion had been injured, and more than 20 Templar Knights had been injured. The green brick floor of the quartermaster's quarters was already stained with blood. The crowd was getting more and more ferocious. Just when it looked like someone was about to die, a thunderous roar suddenly came from outside. All of you, stop! Hua! A beam of golden light shot out, carrying with it a biting cold qi. It was the god binding chains. Not good. Sikong Nan hurriedly turned around, but the god binding chains were already in front of him. He hurriedly raised his longsword horizontally to block, but was forced to retreat a few steps. Blood had already spilled out from the corner of his mouth, but he did not get angry. Instead, his expression became respectful, and he shouted loudly, all of you, stop. Lin Muyu also signaled for the people of the Templar Knights to stop. Zhang Wei revealed a resentful expression. He had not fought enough. At this moment, Qin Lei galloped over on his horse. He carried the thunder-split blade, and behind him was a group of Imperial guards. His face was ashen as he dismounted from his horse. He looked at the people of the God Might Battalion and the Templar Knights, and said coldly, what exactly is going on? Sikong Nan cupped his fists and said respectfully, Commander Qin, the Golden Star instructor of the Templar Knights, Zhang Wei, acted recklessly in the quartermaster's quarters, and actually injured the quartermaster. I went up to reason things out, but he actually wanted to beat me up as well. Qin Lei looked at him with a fierce gaze, and said, Zhang Wei is only at the 3rd level of the Earth realm. Would he dare to beat you, who is at the Heaven realm? He really dared to beat me up, Lin Muyu secretly thought, then cupped his fists and said, Commander Qin Lei, the quartermaster was negligent first, and actually made the people of the Templar Knights wait for a long time without giving us any weapons. That's why Master Zhang Wei's words and actions were so extreme, and made such an unwise move. As for General Sikong Nan of the God Might Battalion, he gave the order to seize the weapons of the soldiers of the Templar Knights. Is that so? Qin Lei raised his eyebrows, looked at Sikong Nan, and said, General Sikong Nan is so impressive, to even dare to seize the weapons of the Templar Knights. It seems that you have already forgotten the words of the founding emperor, no one can seize the weapons of the people of the Templar Knights. As he said that, Qin Lei laughed coldly, and said, Sikong Nan, if I were to report this matter to His Majesty, what do you think will happen to you? Sikong Nan's face instantly turned pale, and he hurriedly knelt down on one knee, and said, Commander Qin, I did not do anything like seizing weapons. I hope that Master will investigate this clearly. This is just a misunderstanding. Furthermore, how would the God Might Battalion dare to offend the Templar Knights? That's good. Qin Lei carried the thunder-splitting blade, and walked step by step to the front of the quartermaster. He raised his hand, and an invisible force lifted the quartermaster up. His face was pale, and he hurriedly begged for mercy, Commander Qin Lei, I won't dare to do it again, I won't dare to do it again. Qin Lei smiled indifferently, what is there that a lowly person like you wouldn't dare to do? Men, bring him down, and send him to the Fire Sparrow Division to interrogate this bastard. The quartermaster will be replaced. Remember, no one is allowed to neglect the people of the Templar Knights, or else they will be the enemy of the great Qin clan. Everyone was solemn, and they saluted one after another. Lin Muyu and Zhang Wei checked the injuries of the Templar Knights. They were all light injuries. The people of the God Might Battalion also had a sense of propriety, and did not use any powerful weapons like crossbows, or else it would not be as simple as light injuries. You have recently offended the Divine Marquis Palace. You must be careful. Qin Lei carried the thunder-splitting blade, and stood next to Lin Muyu. Thank you big brother Qin Lei this time. Lin Muyu smiled slightly, but if the people of the Divine Marquis Palace want to touch me, I'm afraid I won't be able to hide. I can only take it one step at a time. Oh right, my brother Qin Yan has also entered the Templar to train. Have you seen him? Ha, I've seen him. Qin Yan's cultivation is not bad, and he is also not bad. That kid is obsessed with martial arts, but neglects to socialize. You have to teach him more. Also, the God Might Battalion has been in the capital for too long. You should avoid them if you can. This group of people rely on the support of the Divine Marquis to look down on everyone. If not for the fact that my father is Prince Ji Ning, I'm afraid there would have been a battle today. Not long after, a batch of weapons and rations were transported out from the quartermaster's warehouse, and loaded onto the carriage, while Qin Lei escorted the people of the Templar Knights back to the Templar Palace. Late at night, Lin Muyu, Zhang Wei, and the rest participated in the Templars' weekly night training, all the way until the evening. Dong dong dong, intense knocking sounds came from outside, as if very anxious. Who is it? A Templar guard walked forward, and when he opened the door, he saw a cluster of torches and the intense sound of horse hooves. Under the light of the torches, 1,000-man commander rushed in with a long sword in hand, opened his palm, and turned his fighting aura into a vast palm energy, directly knocking the Templar guard unconscious. He raised a scroll in his hand and shouted, "Sikong Nan is under orders to capture the Imperial Court's serious criminal Lin Muyu." Who is it? Zhang Wei walked out of the inner hall with a long sword in hand, followed by a few instructors and a group of Templar guards. "Sikong Nan, what are you doing?" When he saw Sikong Nan's face under the torches, Zhang Wei could not restrain his anger. Sikong Nan shook the scroll in his hand and said, "The God Might Battalion investigated openly and secretly, and confirmed that the Golden Star sparring master Lin Ji is the Lin Muyu who killed Silver Fir City's city guard. The evidence is irrefutable, and we are here to arrest him." "You dare!" Zhang Wei growled, his martial soul already emerging from his body. "Men!" Sikong Nan's face was ashen, and he said indifferently, "Archers." Behind him, hundreds of archers drew their bows in unison, the sharp arrowheads glinting coldly under the light of the torches. Chapter 104. Heavy Shields. Zhang Wei bellowed. Immediately, dozens of temple guards raised their heavy shields in front of them. Sikong Nan laughed coldly, "Fire." Xiu xiu xiu, rays of cold light flew in the hall and landed on the shields. At the same time, a few temple guards were hit by the arrows and fell to the ground. Fresh blood instantly flowed on the stone floor. Zhang Wei flew to the front of the shield formation and with a shout, he threw his long blade. Pooh! 2 archers were instantly pierced through and nailed to the door of the temple guards. Zhang Wei. Sikong Nan bellowed and flew over with his sword. Battle chi shone on his armor. With a slight twist of his arm, he slashed out several times. Zhang Wei, on the other hand, was almost empty-handed. He could only use the fiery soul fist to block the blade. After one round, his arms were already covered in wounds. After all, the difference in strength was too great. One was at the earth realm, and the other was at the heaven realm. Pooh! The archers of the God Might Battalion were too accurate. Zhang Wei's arm was hit by an arrow in the blink of an eye, adding another injury to his injury. He was struck by Sikong Nan's sword and fell back onto the shield wall. It was a tragic sight. At this time, a figure flew over from the inner hall. An indigo light illuminated the surroundings. In a rage, Lin Muyu threw her demon noise blade to save Zhang Wei. The demon noise blade screeched in the night sky and slashed towards Sikong Nan's neck. This was a fatal blow. As a heaven realm superhuman, Sikong Nan's senses were extraordinary. Before the demonic sound saber even arrived, he already sensed the fierce glare. He quickly lowered his head, and with a clang, a large piece of the iron helmet on his head was cut off. Lin Muyu sprinted over, using falling star steps to stand in front of the temple guards. She opened her palm and condensed the walls of a gourd, deflecting the incoming arrows with a dang 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 sound. At the same time, she raised her right palm lightly, lightning crackling between her 5 fingers, while the burning prairie sword spun rapidly 2 meters away from her, emitting intense flames. Go! The thunder force sent the attack of the fire sword straight forward. Sikong Nan knew how powerful it was and hurriedly retreated. His battle boots stepped on the limestone floor and spun rapidly, almost dodging the attack of the spiraling break. The burning prairie sword flew past his chest armor, and the biting cold chi actually shattered the armor on his chest. With a pang sound, it exploded into the group of archers behind him. In an instant, 3 people had already died. You! Sikong Nan maintained his dodging posture, both his hands leaning back against the ground. His face was ashen. Lin Muyu, you audacious bastard! Men, charge! The sound of galloping horses could be heard from outside. In the next moment, over 100 Divine Might Battalion cavalrymen had already charged into the Holy Palace. Each of them was wielding a 3-meter-long spear, and many of them even had the power of their martial souls on their spears. Seeing this, Zhang Wei hurriedly said, Lord Lin Ji, be careful. The Divine Might Battalion's black armored cavalry is known as the world's #1 cavalryman. Lin Muyu also knew the pros and cons, but he had no other choice. If he dodged, then the group of Holy Palace guards and instructors behind him would become the targets of the Divine Might Battalion's slaughter. Furthermore, Sikong Nan had brought the so-called evidence here, so he must have made thorough preparations. If the Holy Palace guards and instructors were killed, they would die in vain. They would definitely be accused of shielding a serious criminal. Buzz buzz buzz, the walls of the gourd swayed slowly around him, and the demonic noise blade continued to spin rapidly in the air. Lin Muyu grabbed the burning prairie sword that was spinning back towards him, and gripped it with both hands as he charged forward. In front of him, dozens of cavalrymen charged forward. The moment they got close, they all stabbed their spears into the walls of the gourd. The weight of the several hundred kilograms of war horses and cavalrymen, coupled with their high speed, brought about a powerful impact. Bam bam bam, the outer layer of the mystic tortoise shell was quickly broken through. Lin Muyu sidestepped and stabbed the burning prairie sword into the body of one of the cavalrymen. With a turn of his body, his dou chi surged, and he slashed another cavalryman off his horse. However, his back was still pierced by another spear. What was even more ridiculous was that one of the cavalrymen and his horse directly rammed into Lin Muyu. Bam! The dull impact caused Lin Muyu to fall back to the ground. He raised his head, and another 2 cold lights pierced towards him. The protective dou chi around his body instantly collapsed, and he had no time to react. He quickly raised his hand and shouted, "Entanglement of roots." Green vines rose from the green stone floor and wrapped around the hooves of the cavalrymen, forcing them to trample on each other. However, it was of no use. Endless cavalrymen continued to charge in from the outside. "We are here to capture the serious criminal, Lin Muyu. You may kill him on the spot." Sikong Nan shouted from the back of the crowd. It seemed like he also knew that it was almost impossible to capture Lin Muyu alive. He knew that he was no match for them, but he had no choice but to fight. Lin Muyu forcefully activated his dou chi and steeled his heart. Suddenly, he bent his body slightly, and a blood-red energy surged around his right fist. Right at the moment the dozen cavalrymen of the God Might Battalion charged towards him, he suddenly punched out. Chaos of all lives. Pang! The sounds of explosions did not stop. The dozen cavalrymen were either dead or heavily injured. Even the war horses were whining and falling to the ground. No. It can't be. Zhang Wei and the group of instructors watched with their mouths agape. They all knew how strong the God Might Battalion's cavalrymen were. To think that Lin Muyu was able to kill so many cavalrymen with a single strike. This was a realm that only a Saint Realm cultivator could reach. At this point, Lin Muyu was already riddled with wounds. His left arm was pierced by 2 arrows, and his shoulder was riddled with 7 to 8 spear wounds. These attacks had pierced through his skin and muscles, but did not reach his bones. After all, the dragon forging remnant scroll had already forged his bones to be as indestructible as the bones of a dragon. He was no longer as weak as before. But right at this moment, an invisible force suddenly descended, causing Lin Muyu to be unable to move. How dare you, criminal! Do you still want to resist? A cold voice could be heard. Lin Muyu's body was covered in blood as he raised his head to look outside. Under the light of the fire, a skinny figure slowly walked over on the green stone floor. Every step he took seemed to add a layer of restraint to his aura, causing Lin Muyu to feel as if she was trapped in a net of thousands of threads, unable to move. Pu, another 2 arrows pierced into his chest, causing him to feel an intense pain. Lin Muyu wanted to resist, but he was completely unable to do so. It's the Divine Overlord. The Divine Overlord is here. The group of instructors was dumbfounded. Some of them even knelt on the ground and greeted respectfully. Greetings, Divine Overlord. Xing Yifan was the most famous person in the Imperial Army. In the eyes of the soldiers, he was like a god, and his status was even higher than that of the Emperor. Zhang Wei clenched his fists and rushed forward despite his injuries. He stood in front of Lin Muyu and looked at Xing Yifan with a burning gaze. Divine Overlord, let's talk this out. Lord Lin Ji is definitely not a criminal. Xing Yifan smiled faintly. Zhang Wei, how do you know he's not a criminal? This question stumped Zhang Wei, causing him to freeze on the spot. Guards. Xing Yifan's voice was extremely calm. Put the beast-binding shackles on Lin Muyu. A few soldiers from the Divine Might Battalion walked forward and used a strange-looking chain to bind Lin Muyu's arms and legs, making it even more impossible for her to move. Take her away. Xing Yifan flicked his sleeves and was about to leave. But right at this moment, another powerful aura spread out. Lei Hong slowly walked out from the inner hall, his voice loud and clear. Brother Zheng, how long has it been since we last met? You came to the sacred hall and left without even saying a word? Xing Yifan turned around and smiled. Brother Lei Hong, I'm actually not here for anything important. I'm just here to capture a kid who's been on the run. Since he's from the Divine Palace, I'll take it as greeting you. Brother Zheng, are you saying that this Lin Ji is Lin Muyu? Lei Hong smiled. Even if he is, it's not that big of a deal. It's just that Lin Muyu is someone entrusted to the Divine Palace by Princess Shi of the Seven Seas Tang sect. He has the Tang sect's iron token, so I'm afraid you won't be able to take him away today. Is that so? Zheng Yifan looked at Reiham and didn't make any movements. However, the blue stone bricks under his feet exploded one after another. A monstrous and invisible aura spread out in the surroundings and headed straight for Reiham. Bang! An invisible wave of air exploded in front of Lei Hong. Lei Hong's beard swayed slightly. He put his hands behind his back and looked at Xing Yifan with a smile. His own aura also spread out rapidly. The 2 Sacred Realm experts were fighting with their domains. Everyone was dumbfounded. The group of instructors was dumbfounded. They knew that Divine Marquis Xing Yifan was well versed in the art of war and was the Empire's god of war. But they didn't know that Xing Yifan was so strong that he could even compete with the Lord of the Divine Palace, Lei Hong. Disperse! Reiham suddenly shouted. Zhang Wei immediately seized the opportunity to grab Lin Muyu's rope and dragged him into the inner hall. Meanwhile, the soldiers of the Divine Might Battalion behind Xing Yifan also dispersed. No one wanted to be caught in the crossfire. Under the pressure of the domains, the walls around the hall began to crack and peel off. The invisible aura collided and wrestled with each other in the air. It was as if thousands of soldiers and horses were charging at each other. The water in the pond jumped up and the laws of space in the hall were distorted by the confrontation between the two experts. Bang! There was a loud noise and the airflow rushed to the surroundings. Zheng Yifan's body trembled slightly. He said with a livid face, "Brother Lei Hong's cultivation has improved again." Lei Hong's face turned even paler. He said indifferently, "Brother Zheng really hid his strength well." At this moment, an unusual noise came from outside. A man in a white robe rushed in with a long saber in his hand. His face was full of anxiety. It was none other than Feng Jixing, Grand Deacon. When he saw Lei Hong's complexion, he felt a chill in his heart. He had never seen Lei Hong so weak before. Zheng Yifan said coldly, "Commander Feng Jixing, what business do you have here?" Feng Jixing cupped his fists and said, "Divine Marquis, the letter from you from Silver Fir City and the conclusive evidence collected by Chu Huaying of the Imperial Guard showed that Hua Tian's death was self-inflicted. His Majesty has already pardoned Lin Muyu. This is the pardon written by His Majesty himself." Zheng Yifan didn't even look at it. He turned around and said, "General Feng is really capable." Chapter 105. Watching as Zheng Yifan led the God Might Battalion soldiers away, Feng Jixing heaved a sigh of relief and turned to ask, "Grand Deacon, are you all right?" Lei Hong's complexion was extremely pale. He suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood, and the gray hair on his head instantly turned even whiter. "Grand Deacon." Zhang Wei and the others rushed over. Lin Muyu also broke free from the beast-binding chains, and held onto Lei Hong's arm. "Grandpa Lei Hong, are you all right?" Lei Hong's expression was gloomy. "Everyone thinks that the Empire's two sanctuary masters are me and Chu Chu, I'm afraid. The Empire's most powerful sanctuary master is already Zheng Yifan." Feng Jixing asked, "Is Zheng Yifan really that strong?" "Yes." Lei Hong nodded, and then smiled at Lin Muyu. Since His Majesty has pardoned you and Chu Yao, then you can finally use your real identity to establish yourself in the divine sanctum and the imperial capital." Lin Muyu nodded, "Yes. Thank you Grandpa Lei Hong, and thank you Big Brother Feng." Feng Jixing continued to nod. "I'm afraid this may not be a good thing. How about I go see His Majesty, and ask His Majesty to bestow you the identity of a royal guard. This way the Divine Marquis residents will have to think twice before doing anything to you. What do you think?" "Can I?" Lin Muyu did not refuse. Lei Hong shook his head. "No, you is our divine sanctum's rising star. How can we just hand him over to the royal guards? No, I won't agree no matter what." Feng Jixing could not help but smile. Grand Deacon is really stubborn. Not long after, a group of medical officers from the elixir department came to treat the divine sanctum's injured people, and in the end, Chiao also came. When she saw the heavily injured Lin Muyu, her eyes turned red. "What happened?" she asked as she helped Lin Muyu clean her wounds. Lin Muyu sat on the stone block of the sacred hall. She grimaced in pain and said with a smile, "Sister Chu Yao, we don't have to hide anymore. His Majesty has pardoned our crimes." "Oh, really?" Chu Yao revealed a cheerful smile, but she was a little unhappy as she said, You're always fighting and killing. Look at yourself, how many scars are there on your body? Promise me that you won't fight so much in the future, okay? And, as long as people don't offend me, I won't offend them." "All right." On the side, Zhang Wei, who was being treated by another elixir department medical officer, looked at the two of them with a dubious expression. He said with a smile, "Sire Lin Muyu is really lucky with women. He actually has such a beautiful medical officer treating his wounds, and they look so compatible." Chu Yao's pretty face immediately flushed red. She glared at Zhang Wei and said, "You're still so arrogant after such a serious injury. I think there's no need to apply medicine." Zhang Wei repeatedly begged for mercy. "Please don't. If I don't apply medicine, my wounds will probably become inflamed and rot." Humph, I'll teach you to keep your mouth shut, Chu Yao said with a smile. Zhang Wei was immediately enchanted. He said, Sire Lin Muyu, if I had such a good sister, I would definitely take her as my wife. How could I let someone else have such a beautiful sister? Chu Yao's face turned even redder. You're still talking too much. Lin Muyu sat at the side and looked at Chu Yao's bashful beauty. He was a little tempted, but he knew that he didn't belong to this world and might have to leave. If he couldn't take Chu Yao with him, then why bother messing with her heart? However, this silly boy probably didn't know that the beauty's heart was already messed up. They only rested for the night. Their injuries were too serious, so they could only lie down and cultivate the dragon forging bone remnant scroll and the spirit vein technique. Lying on the bed and looking at the starry sky above the secret room, Lin Muyu's eyes widened. The spiritual energy of the spirit vein technique rippled outwards. The spirit vein technique was indeed very magical. An attack that gathered spiritual energy could attack the enemy's soul, but it also required concentration. Thus, the moment Xing Yifan stepped into the holy palace, Lin Muyu tried to attack him with the spirit vein technique. Unfortunately, it failed. Xing Yifan's soul was stronger than his, and so was his domain. Using the spirit vein technique to fight against such an expert would require a higher cultivation. Moreover, today's battle allowed Lin Muyu to truly understand the power of the sacred region. A heavenly realm expert challenging a sacred region expert was no different from courting death. Once the opponent's domain was activated, a heavenly realm expert would be unable to move at all. There was no chance of winning. But how far away was the sacred region? No one knew. Ever since Lin Muyu stepped into the first tier of the heavenly realm, she had been stuck at level 60. Cultivation was not easy, and there were bottlenecks everywhere. As a result, Feng Jixing, Qin Lei, and the others were stuck at the first tier of the heavenly realm, unable to break through. Experts like these could be found everywhere. Lei Hong, Chu Chu, and the others had also been stuck at the first tier of the sacred region for more than 10 years. Late at night, Zai Tian Palace. A beautiful palace maid was sitting gracefully on a white jade bed. Beside her was an exquisite drawing board. The celestial emperor, Qin Jin, was waving his brush and sketching a beautiful woman's expression and face on the white paper. Although Qin Jin was the great emperor, he was also known as the divine hand by the world. He was a master of calligraphy and paintings. Legend had it that the great emperor had once ordered his personal officials to sell his landscape paintings to the people, and they would always fetch a high price. However, the graceful woman on the drawing board seemed to be completely different from the palace maid in front of her. The beauty between her brows was not something this palace maid could compare to. This painting did not look like her at all. Instead, it had a bit of Qin Yin's charm. Creak, the door was gently pushed open, and Qin Yin walked over to stand behind Qin Jin. She looked at the drawing board and suddenly burst into laughter. Imperial father is drawing imperial mother again. Qin Jin was taken aback. He could not help but laugh. Xiao Yin, why aren't you sleeping? I couldn't sleep, so I came to see father. Hurry up and go to sleep. How can a girl stay up so late? Qin Jin waved his hand, indicating for the palace maid to leave. Qin Yin smiled. Father, do I really look like mother? Yes, you look almost exactly the same. Qin Jin looked out the window with some fascination and said, after she left, Imperial father's everything has been left to you. Come, let Imperial father comb your hair again. Once you're done, you can go back to sleep. Yes. Qin Yin obediently sat in front of the bronze mirror. She took off the princess crown on her hair and let her jet black hair fall down. Qin Jin took the silver comb and looked at his daughter's appearance in the bronze mirror. He could not help but tremble. He said in a daze, it's been so many years. If only I could see her one more time. I'm willing to exchange the world for one more look at her. Qin Yin's eyes reddened. Father, Qin Jin slowly combed through his daughter's hair. His face was full of doting love as he said, my Xiao Yin has grown up. When you were very young, I always wondered how long father would be able to stay by your side. But Xiao Yin has grown up so quickly and is about to get married. There will be another person by Xiao Yin's side to dote on and love you in father's place. Tears welled up in Qin Yin's eyes. She closed her eyes and let the tears flow freely. Qin Jin's hands trembled slightly. He muttered to himself, time really passes too quickly. In the blink of an eye, you've grown up so much. I don't know why, father. Father always feels that I haven't seen enough of you before you've grown up and gotten married. Qin Yin's shoulders trembled slightly. Father, don't say any more. I won't get married. Qin Jin could not help but laugh. Don't be silly. Even if you're a princess, you still have to get married. Otherwise, how will you continue to pass on our Qin bloodline? Father is just a little emotional. Xiao Yin, who do you like the most among the younger generation of the family? Qin Yin was stunned. She wiped her tears and said, I'm still young and don't want to get married. Father, don't ask me. Xiao Yin won't marry anyone. You're saying silly things again. Qin Lei, Qin Yan, and Jinan Wang's sons. If you like any one of them, father will bestow marriage. You're already 20 years old. When your mother was 20, she would have already married me and become my empress. I'm not getting married. Let's wait a few more years. Qin Yin's eyes were red. I don't like any of the people father mentioned. I want to accompany father for a few more years, okay? Silly Xiao Yin. Qin Jin sighed. At this time, a eunuch's voice came from outside. Your Majesty, Imperial Guard Commander Feng Jixing requests an audience. Let him in. Yes. Soon, the door opened. Feng Jixing was travel-worn. He knelt down and cupped his fists. This general greets your Majesty. Qin Jin smiled. General Feng must have something important for you to request an audience so late at night, right? Feng Jixing nodded. Your Majesty, an hour ago, Divine Marquis led 3,000 Divine Might Battalion cavalry to attack the Sage Temple. What? Qin Jin's body trembled. How is that possible? The Divine Marquis residence and the Sage Temple are the pillars of the Empire. Why would they fight each other? What was the result, General Feng? Feng Jixing said, by the time I arrived, the battle had already stopped. Both sides suffered dozens of casualties, and the reason for the battle was that Divine Marquis wanted to kill Lin Muyu. Therefore, I beg your Majesty to allow Lin Muyu to join the Royal Forest Guard. Oh. Qin Jin frowned. What kind of person is this Lin Muyu? Why would General Feng recommend her like this? Feng Jixing raised his head and said, from what I know, Lin Muyu is a martial arts prodigy that only appears once in 1,000 years. Such a person should be used by the Empire and must not be killed by the deity overlord. I hope that your Majesty will allow Lin Muyu to join the Royal Forest Guards. The corners of Qin Yin's lips curled up. Father, will you allow it? Hearing his daughter's words, Qin Jin calmed down. Very well, I will write an edict immediately to allow Lin Muyu to become a member of the Royal Forest Guard. General Feng, thank you for your hard work. Thank you, Your Majesty. As he spoke, Feng Jixing lifted his head to look at Qin Jin. He said in a low voice, Your Majesty, the Divine Marquis residence's actions are getting more and more aggressive. They even dared to clash with the Sage Temple. Are we just going to tolerate them? I feel that if necessary, we can transfer the 100,000 soldiers guarding Sangnan province back to the capital. I am willing to do this personally. Qin Jin took a deep breath. Zheng Yifan is the pillar of the empire. Currently, more than half of the commanders in the various armies are former subordinates of Zheng Yifan. As long as he doesn't go overboard, let him be. After all, if the northern desert and the southern barbarians go to war, we still need Zheng Yifan to lead the army. Isn't that right, General Feng? But, Feng Jixing's eyebrows were tightly knitted together. There are no buts. General Feng, rest early. come and get the edict tomorrow morning. Yes, Your Majesty. He turned and left the Zai Tian Hall. The starlight shone on Feng Jixing's pure white cloak. He pressed his hand on the hilt of his sword and looked up at the sky in silence. Then, he walked alone on the stone path of the hall. Under the starlight, his lonely figure looked somewhat lonely. Chapter 106. The next day, Guiyang and Lei Hong sat opposite each other in the tea pavilion of the Holy Temple. They held a cup of tea presented by Ling Nan and closed their eyes to savor the aroma of the tea. Lei Hong sat cross-legged on the opposite side, a faint dou qi enshrouding his body. The battle with Zhen Yifan had caused him serious injuries and he was still channeling his dou qi to heal himself. How is it? Guiyang opened his eyes and asked. Lei Hong opened his eyes slowly and said, my internal injuries have basically healed. The medicine from the spiritual medicine department is very effective, but the hidden injuries in my meridians have not been completely healed. Sigh. I miscalculated. The last time I fought with Zhen Yifan was more than 10 years ago. He was merely a first-level Heaven Realm martial artist back then. I didn't expect him to have cultivated into the holy domain in these 10 years. Moreover, Zhen Yifan's Ice Soul tactics has become even more powerful. Guiyang smiled slightly, don't worry. We were caught off guard last time. We'll be better prepared next time. I've already applied for 200 archers from the Imperial Army to be appointed as Holy Temple guards. Even if Zhen Yifan comes again, his Ice Soul tactics may not be able to withstand thousands of arrows, right? Yes, that's the only way. At this moment, a Holy Temple guard passed through the green vine-filled corridor and said respectfully, Great Deacon, General Qin Lei, the commander of the Imperial Army from the Zai Tian Temple, requests an audience. Oh. Qin Lei? Lei Hong was startled and said, invite him in. Yes. Not long after, Qin Lei, dressed in a white robe, entered the hall with a few Imperial guards. He cupped his fists and smiled, Junior Qin Lei greets Great Deacon Lei Hong. Lei Hong stood up and said with a smile, General Qin Lei has come to visit, I wonder what's the matter. It's about Lady Lin Muyu. Oh. Lei Hong squinted his eyes, what happened to you? Qin Lei touched the back of his head and smiled awkwardly, His Majesty has already spoken to allow Lin Muyu to join the Imperial Army as a member of the Holy Temple and become one of the 200 Imperial Guards. This is His Majesty's handwritten decree. What? Lei Hong was so angry that his beard flew up. He smashed the tea table beside him with one palm and glared, This is too much. Did His Majesty ask for my opinion? Ah Yu is the most outstanding talent among the younger generation of the temple. I have high hopes for him, so why should the royal army hand him over to them just because they want to? No, Lei Hong, will never allow you to become a member of the Imperial Guard. Qin Lei grinned and became even more embarrassed. He cupped his fists and said respectfully, Grand Deacon, please don't be angry. Actually, His Majesty has also considered that you are not willing to let you leave the Holy Temple, so. His Majesty has said that you cannot leave the Holy Temple and at the same time hold the position of a royal guard. Every month, he can enter the Zai Tian Palace to hold the position of a royal guard for half a month and continue to hold the position of a gold star sparring master in the Holy Temple for the remaining half a month. Really? Lei Hong glared at Qin Lei and said, Young Prince Qin Lei, don't lie to me. Qin Lei could not help but laugh. How would this junior dare to lie to Grand Deacon? His Majesty has already approved that after you becomes a royal guard, he can wear the badge of the Holy Temple in the Imperial Palace. Furthermore, Yu's official rank will belong to the Holy Temple and not the royal army. All the glory and achievements will belong to the Holy Temple. What does Grand Deacon think? That's more like it. Lei Hong then leisurely stroked his beard and said with a smile, Deacon Guiyang, go call you over and instruct him on this matter. Then let him pack up and follow General Qin Lei to the Zai Tian Palace to report. However, he must return to the Holy Temple in half a month. He is a member of the Holy Temple and must take root in the Holy Temple. If he is not willing to return, this old man will not have the face to look for His Majesty to ask for him. Guiyang held back his laughter and cupped his fists. Yes, Grand Deacon. Qin Lei respectfully stood to the side. The morning sun shone upon the waterside pavilion. Lei Hong continued to drink his tea. Perhaps he was in a fit of anger, but he did not ask Qin Lei to sit down, nor did he look at the tea. However, Qin Lei was a junior, so he did not mind. He held the lightning split blade and respectfully waited on the side. Lei Hong and Chu Chu were known as the two founding fathers of the empire. His fiery temper had always been famous throughout the world. Lei Hong did not dare to pluck the hair from the tigers, but not long after, Lin Muyu, dressed in the white robes of the Holy Temple, appeared in the waterside pavilion corridor. His steps were steady as he respectfully smiled and said something to Guiyang. As he walked closer, he naturally understood what was about to happen. You. Lei Hong looked at him with a burning gaze, saying, "Are you willing to join the royal guard?" Guiyang said from the side, "Once you join the royal guard, your identity will change. You will become a general under the emperor. This is a supreme honor and you will directly obey the emperor's orders. This also means, the Divine Marquis residence and the Divine Might Battalion will not be able to do anything to you." Lin Muyu understood the good intentions of the two grandfathers. He cupped his fists and said, "Lin Muyu is willing to follow the arrangements." Good. Lei Hong squinted his eyes and smiled. Becoming a royal guard is the dream of every cultivator in the world. Imperial Guard Master Feng Jixing has personally recommended you to His Majesty. Do not disappoint Master Feng Jixing's painstaking efforts. However, Grandpa has to tell you that you will forever be a member of the Holy Temple. From the day you entered the Holy Temple, your soul has been branded by the Holy Temple. Therefore, no matter how high you fly, no matter how far you go, you will eventually return to the Holy Temple. Do you understand, you? Lin Muyu's body trembled. Determination appeared in his eyes and he said, "Grandpa Lei Hong, don't worry. The Holy Temple is my home. I will return. Good. Pack up and go." "Yes." Qin Lei lightly patted Lin Muyu's shoulder from the side, hugged him, and affectionately said with a smile, "Good brother, we can work together in the future. It's really a good thing that the Imperial Forest Guard has such a peculiar expert with a gourd martial spirit like you." Lin Muyu. In the afternoon, after packing up everything, Guiyang gifted the warhorse that Lin Muyu rode the most to him. Therefore, Lin Muyu carried the prairie fire sword on his back and held the pear blossom spear wrapped in black cloth in his hand. He flipped onto the horse and followed Qin Lei and the others out of the Holy Temple. Lei Hong, Guiyang, Zhang Wei, and the others saw him off at the entrance of the Holy Temple. Zhang Wei cupped his fists and said, "Master Lin Muyu, we will meet again." Lin Muyu also cupped his fists and said, "Master Zhang Wei, work hard." "I will." The so-called friendship between gentlemen was probably like this. Lin Muyu and Zhang Wei had never been to places like taverns, but there was a kind of brotherhood between them that they could entrust their lives to each other. This kind of friendship between men was something that women could not understand. After saying their goodbyes one by one, they passed through Tong Tian Street and went straight to the Zhe Tian Palace. When they crossed the Zhe Tian Temple's moat, 3 consecutive dong 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 sounds of war drums could be heard. It seemed to be to welcome the new member, Lin Muyu. Qin Lei carried the thunder-split blade and walked slowly. Along the way, the royal guard on both sides successively knelt down on one knee and gave a military salute. The atmosphere was extremely solemn. In the Zhe Tian Temple, Qin Lei was like a mighty general. No one could be compared to him. Not even the commander of the Imperial Guard, Feng Jixing. After all, the people of the mainland paid attention to bloodline. Qin Lei had the blood of the royal family while Feng Jixing was born as a commoner. Because you are a staff member of the Holy Temple, the ceremony for you to be conferred as a royal guard was personally hosted by His Majesty. Let's go, we will go to the side hall of the Zhe Tian Temple. His Majesty is already waiting there, yes. Lin Muyu could not help but feel a little apprehensive. This was the second time he was meeting the Emperor Qin Jin, right? However, he was also a little expectant. In his mind, the beautiful face of the little princess, Qin Yin, appeared. Would he be able to see Qin Yin this time? Although he had only met Qin Yin twice, this amiable, adorable, and lively heir of the family seemed to have left a beautiful mark in his heart, one that he would never forget for the rest of his life. Dong dong dong, the war drums sounded again. Along the way of the side hall, there were royal guards everywhere. There were a total of 7,000 royal guards in the imperial capital. Among them, 200 of the most outstanding ones were known as the royal guards. Those who could protect the emperor and the princess at close range were also royal guards. This was a special honor, an honor that normal royal guards could not hope to achieve. Although Lin Muyu came from another world and the world in his heart was much bigger than the people here, he was also much more unrestrained. However, at this moment, looking at the endless palace pavilions and buildings and the scene of guards in the forest, he was still shocked. This world seemed to be a deep quagmire that kept twisting and twisting, sucking him in and making him sink deep into it. Qin Lei walked at the front, the white cloak behind him swaying. There was a golden-purple flower embroidered on it. This was the symbol of the white-robed royal guards. The outstanding ones among the 200 royal guards were known as the white-robed royal guards. There were only a few of them in the entire empire. In the main hall of the side hall, the emperor, Qin Jin, sat on the dragon throne in an imposing manner. He looked at the group of generals and royal guards below him with a calm gaze. Lin Muyu had already seen Feng Jixing wherever he looked. Big brother Feng Jixing's expression was very serious. The moment their eyes met, he grinned, causing Lin Muyu's anxious heart to calm down a lot. He knew that it did not matter how deep the waters in this Zhe Tian palace were, because there were two brothers here. Qin Lei walked forward, cupped his fists and said, "Your Majesty, I have brought Lin Muyu here." Qin Jin nodded, announced the imperial edict. The eunuch at the side walked forward, unfolded a golden scroll and said in a clear voice, "Lin Muyu, commoner, Gold Star Sparring Master of the Divine Temple, Cultivation of the First Level of the Heaven State. Due to your meritorious service in protecting Her Highness Qin Yin in the dragon-seeking forest, you can be specially pardoned to join the royal guards and be bestowed with the title of third-class nobility. You will take up the position of sergeant in the royal guards and temporarily be listed as a member of the Tiger Guards. I hope that you will be able to serve the empire wholeheartedly in the future and be loyal to the Qin family." Qin Lei hinted with his gaze and said in a low voice, "Silly boy, hurry up and accept the imperial edict to express your gratitude." Lin Muyu was stunned. How would he know so much etiquette? He walked forward and received the imperial edict. Then, he gave an empire's military salute to Qin Jin who was on the throne and said respectfully, "Lin Muyu swears to be loyal to the family and will never betray it." Logically speaking, after becoming a royal guard, one should have done 9 bows, but Lin Muyu did not do so. Instead, he bowed to the emperor in the manner of a soldier. Qin Jin could not help but feel a little displeased by this. He frowned and said, "Lin Muyu, why did you swear to be loyal to the family? Is it because of me?" Lin Muyu was stunned. Qin Jin's gaze became increasingly sharp, piercing through his soul like a sharp arrow. He said, "Tell me the truth. Don't lie. What is the reason for you swearing loyalty to the Qin family?" Lin Muyu raised his head to look at Qin Jin. Their gazes met, and he did not back down. After a few seconds, he said calmly, "I am willing to swear loyalty to the family for Her Highness Qin Yin." Chapter 107. When Lin Muyu said, "For Qin Yin," the group of generals was stunned. Many of them were already sweating on behalf of this silly boy. After all, the current emperor was still Qin Jin. However, he actually said that he was only loyal to the family for the sake of the next successor. This inevitably angered the emperor. Even Feng Jixing furrowed his brows and thought to himself, "Damn, this silly boy is going to stir up a hornet's nest. He's so honest." However, what everyone didn't expect was that Qin Jin wasn't angry at all. Instead, he stood up and held on to the emperor's sword. He smiled and said, "Well said. I'll remember this. For the sake of Her Highness Qin Yin, you must never betray the family." "Yes, Your Majesty." "All right, go." "Yes." Qin Lei secretly wiped his sweat and smiled as he said, "Rascal, let's go. Follow me to the Imperial Army's camp." All right. After leaving the side hall, the group went straight to the Imperial Army's camp. The camp was inside the palace. Everyone leapt onto their horses and galloped away. Not long after, a building made of green bricks and tiles appeared in front of them. The Imperial Army's camp was far more luxurious than the Imperial Army's camp. In fact, a part of the palace's building had been split off to serve as the camp. The status of the Imperial Army in the capital was evident from this. The central tent was set up in the central hall. Qin Lei leapt off his horse and led Lin Muyu into the hall. From afar, he saw a familiar face walking towards them. It was Chu Huayin. You've finally joined the Imperial Army." Chu Huayin laughed. Lin Muyu was a little embarrassed. "Brother Chu, we're working together now. It's just that after joining the Imperial Army, I'm afraid that I won't be able to visit Sister Chu Yao much more often." "That won't happen." "Why?" He was puzzled. Chu Huayin smiled mysteriously and said, "Because you've just joined the Imperial Army." "Oh." Qin Lei laughed and sat on the general's seat. He said, "Head of the army, get the name list." Very quickly, a person dressed in official robes took out a file and said, "Head of the Imperial Army, please instruct me." Qin Lei stood up and said, "Lin Muyu, squad leader of the Imperial Guards." His Majesty personally conferred him the title of Tiger Guard. Since he has joined the Imperial Guards for less than 3 months, he has been temporarily arranged to carry out missions in the inspection office. His military rank is Centurion, and he commands 100 Imperial Guards cavalry. Lin Muyu was stunned. He had no idea what Qin Lei was talking about. Chu Huayin smiled and patted his shoulder. "Good lad, not bad. You managed to become a centurion of the Imperial Army after entering Zhe Tian Palace. When I first entered, I started from the rank of corporal." Lin of Qin Lei, Lin Muyu Hoof, head of Lei, Chu Muyu smiled. "Head. I see." Qin Lei held on to the hilt of his battle blade and said, There are a total of 204 people in the Imperial Guard, and they are divided into 3 types of positions. The first rank is the Dragon Guard, and there are a total of 70 people. They are dedicated to protecting His Majesty and Her Highness the Princess, but they must have been a member of the Imperial Guard for at least 3 years. The second rank is the Tiger Guard, and there are a total of 61 people. They are responsible for the safety and defense of the surroundings of Zhe Tian Hall, and you are one of the Tiger Guards. Finally, the third is the Eagle Guard. They are responsible for patrolling the surroundings of the Imperial Army. You are a member of the Tiger Guard. Lastly, the third is the Eagle Guard. They are responsible for patrolling the surroundings of the Imperial Army and protecting the safety of the Imperial City. As for the inspection office, it's actually just an external department. It's responsible for patrolling the perimeter of the Zhe Tian Hall and the defense of Tongtian Street every day. It's not a big deal, just maintaining public order. This is the only way to become a Dragon Guard. Look, Feng Jixing and I started out as Tiger Guards. Lin Muyu couldn't help but laugh. He cupped his fists and said, "Yes, I understand. That's good." Qin Lei sat down again and looked at the files on the table. He then raised his head and said, "Chu Huayin, bring you to report to the inspection office. Help him collect 3 sets of armor for the Imperial Army while you are at it." "Yes, General." Chu Huayin bowed respectfully. No matter how good his relationship with Qin Lei was, he always had to be respectful in the military camp. This was the rule. The military officer sent over 3 sets of armor. They were all the attire of the Imperial Army. However, Lin Muyu had special permission. Thus, he could only wear the Holy Temple's battle robe in the imperial palace. Come, put this on. Chu Huaying was like an elder brother as he personally embedded 2 military insignia on the collar of his armor. It was a silver military insignia with the image of a mighty tiger's head. It represented the Tiger Guard and behind it were 3 silver stars. This was also the standard insignia of a centurion of the empire. At this moment, Lin Muyu was already considered a mid-level general in the army. Let's go. Chu Huaying mounted his horse and looked at him meaningfully with a smile. He said, however, you must be very careful. The supervisor of the inspection office is Sir Bai Fan. You must be very careful when carrying out missions in the inspection office. You must not provoke Sir Bai Fan. Otherwise, he won't let you off easily. Ah? Lin Muyu was startled. He secretly thought that it was indeed not easy to mingle around. He thought that he would have nothing to do after entering Zhe Tian Palace. He didn't expect that he would still have to fawn over his superiors here. Not far away, a group of imperial army guards wearing white robes galloped over. After they got closer, they all dismounted and stood in a row to salute Lin Muyu. The person in the lead said, I am Wei Chou. I have brought 9 brothers from the imperial army to report. Sir Lin Muyu, from now on, you are our direct superior general. We will follow you to the inspection office to report. Wei Chou? Lin Muyu couldn't help but secretly rejoice. This Wei Chou looked upright and outspoken, and there was a heroic spirit between his brows. It was a gift from the heavens to have such subordinates. She nodded and said, all right, let's set off now. Yes. Chu Huaying didn't send them off too far. He was on duty today and had to continue patrolling the palace. Thus, Lin Muyu and the others went to the inspection office on their own. The sound of horse hooves reverberated throughout the imperial city. At the outermost area of the Zhe Tian Palace, there was a group of buildings that appeared to be of a simple and unadorned style. They looked exceptionally majestic, and there were 3 large words written on a horizontal board, Inspection Division. Lin Muyu held a document in her hand and led 10 imperial army guards in. She said to the guard, the new Tiger Guard, Lin Muyu, has led 10 imperial army guards to await orders. A voice came from the hall. So it's Lin Muyu who has graced the inspection office. Come in. Yes. Lin Muyu lifted her battle robe and stepped over the high black threshold into the inspection office. She looked up and saw 2 rows of imperial army guards lined up on both sides with solemn expressions. At the end of the hall was a steel table, and a general with a long beard was sitting there. He looked up at Lin Muyu and said with a smile, I've long heard of Lin Muyu's great name. It's an honor to see you with my own eyes today. Lin Muyu pays her respects to Lord Bai Fan. Lin Muyu was still very respectful. Bai Fan nodded and said, Lin Muyu, our inspection office originally had a total of 5 teams. Including your team today, there will be 6 teams. Each team needs to carry out missions for 10 days every month. Your team will be responsible for patrolling Tongtian Street for the next 7 days. Do you understand? Yes. All right. Bai Fan suddenly smiled and said, I heard that you once saved Her Highness Qin Yin in the dragon-seeking forest. Yes, ha. Bai Fan stood up and cupped his hands with a smile. It seems that Lord Lin Muyu is the savior of the future crown prince. This humble Bai Fan greets you. Lin Muyu couldn't help but feel a bit disgusted. She frowned and said calmly, You're too kind, Lord. All right. Bai Fan said, Go to the camp and pick 100 Imperial Army soldiers to be your subordinates. The safety of Tongtian Street will be in your hands today, but you must remember that gate 30 to 50 of Tongtian Street needs to be carefully patrolled. You must not disturb the order there, otherwise I will not let you off easily, even if you are Her Highness Savior. Yes. Lin Muyu cupped her hands, then this subordinate will take her leave. Go. After leaving the door, Wei Chou and the other Imperial Army guards followed closely behind. Lin Muyu frowned. What does Lord Bai Fan mean by gate 30 to 50? What kind of people live there? Wei Chou spurred his horse to catch up with her and rode alongside Lin Muyu. He lowered his voice and said, General, gate 30 to 50 includes the largest gambling dens, brothels, orphanages, mints, nursing homes, and so on. It is the economic center of the entire empire. The wealth there is comparable to that of a country, but there are also all kinds of hidden struggles. As far as I know, the owners of the gambling dens and brothels are all familiar with Lord Bai Fan. So when we patrol there, no matter what we see, we just pretend not to see it. Is that so? Lin Muyu raised her eyebrows and said, Then what's the use of us patrolling? Wei Chou was startled and asked tentatively, Is General not afraid that Lord Bai Fan will pursue this matter? Lin Muyu laughed heartily and said in a heroic manner, As the royal guards, we must be worthy of this pure white robe. How can we allow this robe to be stained with dirt? I, Lin Muyu, am a Virgo, a perfectionist. I can't tolerate even a speck of dust in my eyes. Wei Chou, do you think I'm right? Wei Chou was startled. He didn't quite understand what Virgo meant, but he still felt his blood boiling. He quickly cupped his hands and said, If General is really doing this for the sake of the world, then no matter what happens, Wei Chou is willing to pledge his life to follow General. Good. When they arrived at the Imperial Army's main camp, they selected 100 elites and 10 Imperial Army guards. These 110 people were Lin Muyu's personal forces. She led these 110 people out of Zhe Tian Palace and slowly rode into Tongtian Street. Lin Muyu's white robe fluttered in the cool breeze and she suddenly felt proud of herself. Tongtian Street was the economic core of the entire imperial capital. There were more than 2,000 portals in total. Therefore, they could only split their forces into 10 teams. Lin Muyu personally led 11 people, including Wei Chou, the Imperial Army Guard, and 10 Imperial Army Cavalry. The main targets for inspection were numbers 30 to 50. Since Bai Fan was a tiger, according to Lin Muyu's personality, she would definitely touch the tiger's butt. Chapter 108. Leading the warhorses, they slowly traversed through Tongtian Street. The passers-by on the road all cast respectful gazes. In the eyes of the commoners, this group of people dressed in white was a symbol of power, so many people gave way. Lin Muyu frowned, and said in a low voice, The commoners are afraid of us? Wei Chou smiled awkwardly, Yes, but also not. How so? Wei Chou said, The Imperial Army is the largest part of the imperial capital's defense force. It is said that 7,000 people can ensure the imperial capital is impregnable, but, on normal days, the Imperial Army is actually in a state of inaction, and there are even frequent incidents of invading and harassing the commoners. Commander Qin Lei is busy with official duties, and does not have the time to care about these things. Lin Muyu frowned, and continued to lead the horse forward. Shop after shop flashed past in front of them, and very soon, they arrived in front of a house with white walls. The faint sound of a woman crying could be heard from inside. With a creak, the door opened, and a group of more than 30 women in ragged clothes walked out under the escort of guards. Each of their faces were ashen, and their eyes were lifeless. Hurry up and leave, you lowly servant. A guard raised his hand and used the hilt of his sword to fiercely smash a woman's shoulder, causing her to stagger and fall to the ground. She raised her head and looked angrily at the guard, but did not say a word. Lin Muyu was instantly petrified. That woman's eyes were so similar to Xianxiang's. What's going on? Lin Muyu flipped over on the horse and rushed over. She had already raised her hand and pulled out the burning prairie sword. The long sword quickly pierced through, and with a keng, it broke the body of the sword that the guard raised again. How dare you, who is it? The guard quickly turned around, and saw Lin Muyu riding over on a horse, and the insignia of a centurion on his collar. He hurriedly and respectfully said, General. Greetings to the general. What's going on with these women? Lin Muyu asked indifferently. The guard was startled, and said, General, this is the nursery hall. These women are naturally the camp concubines. I am currently bringing them to the Imperial Army camp to carry out the daily task of washing clothes. Behind him, Wei Chou caught up and said, General, these are indeed camp concubines. What is a camp concubine? Lin Muyu asked. Ingji is. Wei Chou found it hard to say it out loud. He clenched his teeth and said, Ingji is also known as the laundry girl. She is responsible for washing clothes in the army. In addition, Ingji is also responsible for dispelling the soldiers' desires. So, General. Lin Muyu looked at the group of girls in front of him. Each and every one of them had lifeless eyes. Some of them were even very young, but their bodies were already riddled with scars. Instantly, an indescribable anger rose in his heart. He raised his hand and grabbed the burning prairie sword that was circling back and said, Take them back. Guards, follow me into this nurturing hall. I want to see what this nurturing hall is exactly. General. Wei Chou hurriedly stopped him. This rule has been passed down since the era of the god of war, Xiang Wendian. We can't break this rule. Lin Muyu's heart ached. She gritted her teeth and said, Wei Chou, are you willing to see them continue to suffer? If you can't bear it, then follow me in. Yes, General. 10 Imperial guards got on their horses and charged through the door of the nurturing hall. The dozens of guards inside the door didn't dare to resist when they saw the Imperial guards. They all stood there dumbstruck. This was a large courtyard. Not far away, the miserable cries of young girls could be heard. Lin Muyu spurred her horse forward and directly knocked open the door of a room in the corner. She saw a fat body wriggling on top of a young girl's body. Who is it? Fatty turned around with a ruthless expression and shouted, How dare you spoil my plans? You're courting death. He didn't even look at who it was. He grabbed a saber from the side and rushed over. His martial spirit appeared on the saber. This person's martial arts attainment wasn't low. Although he was fat, he was very agile. Lin Muyu flipped off her horse. She gently extended her sword and sucked the opponent's long saber. She quickly turned and retreated, bringing Fatty out of the room. The moment he was lured out of the room, Lin Muyu's entire body erupted with a wave of Do Qi. The burning prairie sword suddenly pressed down, bringing the fatty's body down. She then turned around and gave a roundhouse kick. The dense Do Qi wrapped around her combat boots, and with a peng, she kicked the back of the fatty's head. How could the fatty withstand such an attack under the influence of anger? His entire body flew up and crashed into the wall. The bluestone tiles scattered all over the floor. The fatty's protective Jinqi had completely shattered, and he had already fainted. The surrounding people stood there dumbfounded. Only a young guard muttered, Lord Zhao's cultivation level is at the second firmament of the earth realm. He was defeated in one strike. This Lord Imperial Guard is so powerful. Lin Muyu raised his head and looked into the room. The girl was sitting naked on the bed, crying in pain. He slowly walked back into the room. He raised his hand and pulled the white battle robe from behind him. He put it on the girl and said, Don't cry. It's all over now. The girl suddenly tore off her battle robe and threw it on the ground. Her eyes were filled with despair. She looked at him with a pair of blood-red eyes and said, Stop pretending. You soldiers are all beasts, all beasts. Lin Muyu stood there in a daze. He didn't explain anything. He turned around and closed the door. There was a commotion outside. Another group of guards rushed in. The leader wore the rank of a chiliarch. He said with a livid face, What happened? What's going on? One of the guards said, General Manjin, when Lord Zhao was opening a camp concubine, this royal guard suddenly barged in and knocked Lord Zhao out. Humph. Manjin looked at Lin Muyu with a face full of rage. Who are you? Do you know the rules? Attacking the nursery is the same as attacking the Empire's army. Do you, the Imperial Guard, understand? Can this place represent the Empire's army? Lin Muyu raised his eyebrows. His body was covered with dense dou qi and his martial soul was about to be unleashed. He looked at the group of soldiers in front of him and said through gritted teeth, "You guys treat women as tools to satisfy your lust and humiliate them. You guys don't treat humans as humans and trample on them like this. You guys are not fit to call yourselves soldiers of the Empire. The territory of the Great Qin Empire would have been destroyed if it was left to useless people like you to protect it. You. Man Jin's face was full of anger. He could feel Lin Muyu's powerful fighting spirit. He knew that he was no match for this squad leader. He pulled out his sword and said, "Soldiers with spears, surround him. I don't care if he's from the Imperial Guard or some other army. I, Man Jin, will send him to the military law office for hurting people in the nursery. Come on." The corner of Lin Muyu's mouth curled up, revealing a handsome smile. He actually took the initiative to provoke them. Behind him, there was a group of girls in disheveled clothes shivering in the room. These girls were collected from various places. Their only purpose was to use their bodies to please the Empire's army. "Go!" Man Jin shouted. Immediately, a large group of soldiers with spears surrounded them. The men brought by Lin Muyu were not to be trifled with. Wei Chou pulled out his sword with a roar and swung it. He concentrated his true energy into the blade and turned it into a sword aura that swept through the crowd. In an instant, 7 or 8 spears were chopped off by him. As expected, none of the Imperial Guards were easy to deal with. The rest of the Imperial Guards also pulled out their swords. Some of them had already mounted their horses and were ready to charge. More and more soldiers poured into the room. The insignia on their shoulders indicated that they were from the Imperial Guards. Lin Muyu even recognized that Man Jin was a chiliarch of the Imperial Guards. Wang, lightly raising her finger, she controlled the burning prairie sword that was enveloped in flames. Ready to attack at any moment, Lin Muyu said indifferently, "General Man Jin, the commander of the Imperial Guards, Feng Jixing, is my big brother. I don't want to hurt the relationship between us. If you know what's good for you, immediately withdraw your men. Otherwise, don't blame me for being rude." After all, Man Jin was a chiliarch. How could he endure such humiliation? Waving his sword, he shouted, "What's the point of talking so much? Attack!" A group of soldiers with spears leveled their spears and charged in from all directions. Lin Muyu had a clear view of the situation. With a light wave of her left hand, the martial spirit gourd immediately condensed into the wall of the gourd. Dang, the spears of the Imperial army were repelled. Her right hand controlled the prairie fire sword to launch an attack. The blade of the sword transformed into a fiery rainbow that swept across. With a low roar, the fire dragon sword spirit instantly appeared. With a furious roar, it devoured a dozen of the spearmen. In the next moment, these people were already struggling to extinguish the flames while howling in pain. "Bastard!" Man Jin roared and slashed down with his sword with 3 streaks of light. His martial soul roar. There were no weak soldiers under a strong general. The moment Man Jin attacked, it was obvious that he was extraordinary. But Lin Muyu was stronger, much stronger. She swept her left arm across the horse's back and grabbed the shining pear blossom spear in her hand. With a light shake, the tip of the spear shook and collided with Man Jin's blade. Ding! The sound of the collision was very sharp. Man Jin felt a chill in his arm. Immediately after, he saw a beast soul appear on the pear blossom spear. It was the soul of the 11,000-year ice Qilin. Roar! The spear soul disappeared in a flash, and the ice Qilin's sharp claws swept across Man Jin's armor. Snowflakes fell, and in the next moment, Man Jin was forced to take a few steps back. His face was filled with shock, and his entire body was frozen and numb. Frost crawled up his skin, and he instantly lost his ability to fight. After all, the difference between Earth Realm and Heaven Realm was too great, so he could not be blamed. Retreat! Man Jin's face was full of shock. The surrounding imperial guards also stopped. Everyone knew that with this small number of soldiers, they could not do anything to this young imperial guard. The battle ended in less than 2 minutes. However, the blood on the ground was proof that this battle had happened. Wei Chou held his blood-stained sword and said with a grave expression, "General, we have offended the Imperial Guard's patrolling troops. We have already made a mistake. What should we do now?" Lin Muyu's gaze fell on the young girls imprisoned in the nursery. There were about 200 of them. He frowned and asked, "Wei Chou, if we leave now, what will happen to these women?" Wei Chou was stunned. He said, "They will continue to live the fate that they deserve." "Then what will happen if I let them go?" "They will naturally be free, but General, I'm afraid you will be punished by military law." "Then let them go," Lin Muyu sighed softly and said, "If there is any responsibility, I will bear it alone." "Yes, General." Chapter 109. The Imperial Guards dispersed, leaving behind a few injured who were howling in pain on the ground. This calmed Lin Muyu down. She mounted her horse and ordered, "2 of you stay behind to treat the injured. The rest of you, follow me to escort the girls out of Lanyan City." Wei Chou cupped his fists and said, "Yes, General. However, these girls are penniless. What should we do?" Lin Muyu searched her pockets and found some gold, silver, and diamond coins. She took out a diamond coin and handed it to a soldier, saying, "Take this and exchange it for gold and distribute it to these girls. Each of them will get 5 coins. If there's not enough, I'll make it up to you later." Wei Chou took out a bag of gold and said, "What are you saying, General? I've already given them the money. How can I let you make up for the lack? The Imperial Guards will be here soon." Lin Muyu looked outside the hall and said, "We must hurry. Otherwise, we won't be able to leave once the Imperial Guards arrive." "Yes, General." Soon, nearly 200 prostitutes came out of the recuperation hall in ragged clothes, including the girl who had just lost her virginity. When she finally walked out of the recuperation hall, a trace of life finally appeared in her eyes. In fact, being able to live was more important than anything, even more important than chastity. Sometimes, human nature was like this. Lin Muyu escorted these girls out of the city. She had a patrol token on duty, so she didn't encounter any obstructions when she left the city. The autumn wind was warm outside the city. The group of girls each took out a gold and knelt by the side of the road, thanking her sincerely. Some of them even hugged their heads and cried. Lin Muyu sat on her warhorse and closed her eyes. Through the spirit pulse technique, she could feel the sound of hooves in the distance. She pointed to the south and said, "There's a village about 3 miles south. Go live there and don't come back." "Thank you, sir, thank you." The women cried and supported each other as they left. In less than 5 minutes, the heavy sound of iron hooves could be heard, and a large group of imperial soldiers rushed out of the city. There were at least 1,000 of them, but Lin Muyu recognized the leading general. It was Luo Lai, the chilly arch who had brought him into Lanyan City for the first time. "You." Luo Lai's sword-like eyebrows furrowed as he urged his horse forward. "You're really too reckless. Do you know how much trouble you've caused? Letting 200 concubines loose is a capital offense in the army." Lin Muyu said apologetically, "Lord Luo Lai, I'm really sorry. This time, I injured a soldier of the Imperial Guard. I was indeed too rash, but I really can't bear to see a girl being humiliated in front of me. If I can endure all of this, then I don't deserve to wear this white robe. I'm sorry." Sigh, Luo Lai let out a long sigh. The nursery hall is where the Imperial Army gathers the concubines in Lanyan City. It's directly under the jurisdiction of the Divine Marquis Constabulary. You've destroyed the nursery hall this time. The Divine Marquis Constabulary will definitely not let you off. Based on Divine Marquis Xing Yifun's attitude towards you, there's no way he'll let you off this time. What do you plan to do? Lin Muyu took a deep breath and said, I'll take responsibility for my own actions. I'll go to Zetian Palace myself to see His Majesty and accept my punishment. Luo Lai nodded. We'll split into 2 groups. I'll leave 500 cavalrymen to escort you to Zetian Palace. You must be careful. Before you reach Zetian Palace, don't fall into the hands of the Divine Marquis Constabulary or the Military Police Battalion. Zheng Yifan and Xiang Yu aren't easy to deal with. I'll immediately look for Lord General Feng and Lord Qin Lei. With their pleas, perhaps His Majesty will be lenient. Thank you, Lord Luo Lai. Let's go. The Imperial Guard will have to confiscate your weapons first. Is that all right? After handing over the Burning Prairie sword and Pear Blossom spear, Lin Muyu dismissed Wei Chou and the rest of the Imperial Guards and Imperial Guards, allowing them to return to the patrol station to hand in their orders. Wei Chou was extremely unwilling, but in the end, he could only leave indignantly and watch as Lin Muyu was escorted by a group of Imperial Guards to Zetian Palace. Skyspan Street was extremely lively. The commoners surrounded the 2 sides of the street and looked at the Imperial Guards formation from afar. They were pointing and discussing something. After traveling for a short distance, a troop of soldiers galloped over from afar. Their armor was bright, and there was a golden eagle insignia embedded on their chest plates. They were from the Military Police Battalion. The bloodbath spear in Xiang Yu's hand drooped down, suffused with a blood-red luster. He abruptly raised the spear and shouted in a low voice, Audacious Lin Muyu, how dare you defy the Empire's military law and wreak havoc in the nursery hall? Men, arrest him and bring him back to the Military Police Battalion. Lin Muyu's brows were tightly knitted. The Imperial Guard centurion cupped his fists and smiled, this general greets Lord Xiang Yu. Lin Muyu has already been arrested by this general. The Imperial Guard will escort him to Zetian Palace to await His Majesty's punishment. There's no need for Lord Xiang Yu to worry. Is that so? Xiang Yu's arm trembled slightly, and raging flames surged onto the spear, transforming into a ferocious tiger martial soul. It was a first-grade martial soul, trampling fire tiger. His arm lowered slightly, and he urged his horse to gallop over. The bloodbath spear was covered in raging flames as he laughed, there's no one I, Xiang Yu, can't capture if I want to. The Imperial Guard centurion was stunned, and he didn't even have the courage to draw his sword. Xiang Yu had long stepped into the 2nd level of the heavenly stage, and was a heavenly king powerhouse. With such a huge disparity in strength, how could a mere centurion dare to fight with Xiang Yu? Get out of my way. Lin Muyu abruptly urged her horse to knock the centurion away. She opened her palm, and the black tortoise shell and dragon scale wall instantly condensed, taking on Xiang Yu's determined attack head-on. Pung! The trampling fire tiger roared incessantly, and the bloodbath spear produced a whirling force, piercing through the black tortoise shell like an awl. Xiang Yu roared, and his tiger eyes were filled with rage, break for me. Another loud sound, and the dragon scale wall was also pierced through, and the bloodbath spear pierced towards Lin Muyu's neck with a biting cold flame. Hua! At that critical moment, Lin Muyu dodged to the side, and the bloodbath spear left a bloody mark on his neck. He flipped off his horse, and with a quick stride, he arrived beside the swordsman lieutenant. He opened his palm slightly, and the prairie fire sword was unsheathed. As soon as he turned around, he saw the blazing bloodbath spear flying towards him like lightning. He had no time to dodge, and could only use the prairie fire sword to block. Kang! Sparks flew everywhere. Xiang Yu's strength was just too strong, and he was sent flying backwards, crashing into a wall behind him. Struggle before death. Xiang Yu laughed coldly, and suddenly lifted his left arm. Flames swirled around his fist, and he roared, Fire Cloud Fist. The whistling fist carried with it a monstrous power. Lin Muyu gritted his teeth, and hurriedly raised both his palms, instantly raising his Do Chi to the maximum, and the dragon scale wall plus black tortoise shell was formed once more. Bang! The flames formed a shockwave, pushing a group of imperial guards and military police back again and again. As for the citizens of Lanyan City who were watching from afar, they all covered their eyes and lowered their heads to avoid the impact of the shockwave. The person who felt the most uncomfortable was none other than Lin Muyu. Xiang Yu's punch was very strange, and the layers of flames rippled. Lin Muyu used his Do Qi to strengthen the walls of the gourd, and blocked 3 layers of the force. However, he didn't expect that there would be 3 more layers of force, each stronger than the one before. This was the marvel of the fire cloud mantra that Xiang Yu had cultivated for many years. Many experts had been defeated by this punch. Bang! The moment the walls of the gourd shattered, Xiang Yu's punch landed on Lin Muyu's chest armor, directly shattering the golden star insignia of the sacred temple sparring master. Meanwhile, Lin Muyu concentrated the rest of his Do Qi on his chest to withstand this blow. Bang! He slammed into the wall, and terrifying cracks appeared on the brick wall behind him. Fortunately, he wasn't too seriously injured. His blood and qi were surging, and he felt very uncomfortable. Ha! Xiang Yu sneered, and the bloodbath spear thrust forward like lightning. He was obviously going to kill Lin Muyu, and not bring him back to the military police camp for interrogation. Lin Muyu knew how strong the person in front of him was, but there was nothing he could do. His strength was completely suppressed, and his Do Qi was almost exhausted in an instant. He couldn't summon his strength for a moment, and he couldn't even use the 7 luminaries' profound energy. Looking at Xiang Yu's spear thrust forward, Lin Muyu had a feeling that death was approaching. She never thought that she would actually die here. This was probably the shame of thousands of transmigrators, right? Moreover, it was such a worthless death. Dying for 200 camp girls? Those transmigrators had all made great contributions, and their names would go down in history. In an instant, Lin Muyu's mind was full of thoughts. At this moment, there was a sudden whistling sound in the air, and a broad saber carrying a majestic Do Qi fell from the sky. It was the wind cutter saber. Feng Jixing was here. Clang! Xiang Yu's Shurkill spear was directly repelled by Feng Jixing, and a cyclone surged between the two. Feng Jixing held the wind cutter saber, and his face was filled with battle intent and anger as he said, "Lord Xiang Yu, Lin Muyu is a royal guard. You want to kill him? Do you know that the royal guard is a title bestowed by the emperor? Do you have the qualifications to kill a royal guard?" Heh, Xiang Yu raised the corner of his mouth with some disdain. The fire cloud art on his arm surged as he said indifferently, "Feng Jixing, I know you have a personal relationship with Lin Muyu. If you want to help him, then come at me together. I, Xiang Yu, am unparalleled in the world. So what if I fight the two of you alone?" Feng Jixing said, "You really aren't willing to let Lin Muyu off today?" "That's right." Xiang Yu's eyes were filled with killing intent as he said, he destroyed the nurturing hall and openly challenged the empire's military law. This is already equivalent to challenging the dignity of the god of war, Xiang Wentian. As Xiang Wentian's descendant, how can I allow such a person to live in this world? Lightly swinging the wind cutter saber, Feng Jixing said indifferently, "Lord Xiang Yu, I, Feng Jixing, have always respected you as a hero. But if you insist on killing you today, then you'll have to step over my, Feng Jixing's, corpse." As he spoke, Feng Jixing raised his saber and shouted, "All imperial guards, listen up. This is a personal grudge between me and General Xiang Yu. None of you are allowed to make a move, even if I, Feng Jixing, die in battle." Xiang Yu sneered, "You're courting death." "I've killed many heavenly realm powerhouses, but I've never killed an empire's commander. Then I'll start with you." You're tuning into the Carefree Valley YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.